The Iconian warship Nexus Prime hovers at the edge of restricted space, its sensors locked onto an unidentified vessel. Captain Vera, her metallic skin gleaming under the bridge lights, leans forward in her command chair. "Impossible," she mutters, studying the life sign readings. No lesser species could survive in that craft. Vera's finger hovers over the tractor beam controls. The Iconians, evolved on a high-gravity death world with toxic atmosphere and extreme temperatures, have long believed themselves the galaxy's sole sapient Deathworlders. This unknown ship challenges that assumption. "Activate tractor beam," Vera orders. The smaller vessel, dwarfed by the Nexus Prime, is pulled inexorably towards the docking bay. Klaxons blare as the crew dons protective gear, a precaution for interacting with fragile beings from gentler worlds. Vera strides to the docking bay, her steps barely slowed by the ship's artificial gravity. The bay seals shut. Corrosive gases flood the chamber, replicating Iconian home world conditions. It's a standard procedure designed to incapacitate non-Death World species. Vera watches through reinforced viewports, anticipating the alien craft's occupants to succumb. The hatch of the alien vessel slides open. A figure emerges, clad in a light environmental suit. It moves with ease, unhindered by the crushing gravity. Vera's eyes widen as the being reaches up, unsealing its helmet. Alarms shriek throughout the Nexus Prime. The ship systems, calibrated to Iconian biology, register a potential Death World threat. Emergency containment protocols activate, locking down the docking bay. The alien, a human male named Jesse Holmes, takes a deep breath of the toxic atmosphere. He smiles, unaware of the pandemonium he's causing, and addresses the stunned Iconians in flawless galactic standard. "Greetings. I represent humanity, a newly spacefaring race. We come in peace and seek diplomatic relations." Captain Vera's mind reels. Another Death World species? Impossible. Yet the evidence stands before her, breathing lethal air as casually as an Iconian. She activates her comm link. "High Command, this is Captain Vera. We've encountered another Death World species, requesting immediate guidance." Jesse, noting the Iconian's hesitation, takes a step forward. "Is everything all right? I assure you, we mean no harm." Suddenly, Jesse's ship hums to life. Its advanced systems pierce the Nexus Prime's containment fields. Energy signatures unlike anything in Iconian databases emanate from the craft, causing cascading malfunctions across the warship. Vera's training takes over. "Subdue the intruder," she barks. "Use all necessary force." Jesse's expression shifts from friendly to wary. He retreats to his ship, movements fluid and purposeful. The hatch seals behind him as Iconian security forces advance. Two Death World species face off, each believing themselves the apex predators of the galaxy. The Nexus Prime's docking bay becomes a crucible, where long-held beliefs about cosmic superiority are about to be tested. As Jesse's ship powers up, Captain Vera grips her weapon. The Iconians are about to learn they're not alone in the universe, and the lesson may come at a steep price. As Jesse's ship powers up, Captain Vera grips her weapon tighter, her metallic skin reflecting the pulsing emergency lights. The air crackles with tension as the two Death World species face off in the confined space of the docking bay. Vera's voice cuts through the din of alarms. "Increase atmospheric pressure. Crush that vessel." The docking bay's massive compressors roar to life, flooding the chamber with an ever-denser mixture of toxic gases. The pressure mounts rapidly, threatening to implode Jesse's ship and liquefy any unprotected organic matter. But Jesse's craft remains unaffected. A shimmering energy field envelopes the human vessel, effortlessly neutralizing the extreme pressure differential. Captain Vera's eyes narrow in disbelief as she watches her primary offensive tactic rendered useless. Inside his ship, Jesse's fingers dance across holographic control panels. "Sorry, folks, but you're not giving me much choice here," he mutters, activating his countermeasures. A swarm of tiny, spherical drones erupts from hidden compartments on Jesse's craft. They scatter throughout the docking bay, their near-microscopic size allowing them to slip through even the smallest gaps in the Nexus Prime's hull. Alarms shift pitch as the drones infiltrate the Iconian warship systems. Life support fluctuates wildly, causing Vera and her crew to gasp as the air alternately thins and thickens. The artificial gravity becomes erratic, sending Iconians stumbling as their weight seems to change from moment to moment. "What's happening?" An officer shouts, his voice distorted by static-filled comm channels. Captain Vera struggles to maintain her footing as the gravity shifts again. "Unknown tech. Disable it. Use brute force if necessary." A team of Iconian security personnel advances on Jesse's ship, wielding plasma cutters and gravity hammers. The hatch of the human vessel slides open once more, and Jesse emerges wearing a sleek, form-fitting exosuit. The Iconians pause, momentarily taken aback by the human's new appearance. Jesse's voice comes through clear despite the interference. "Last chance to talk this out peacefully." In response, the lead Iconian security officer charges. Swinging his gravity hammer in a deadly arc, Jesse moves within human speed, sidestepping the attack and using the Iconian's momentum to send him crashing into a nearby bulkhead. The battle erupts in earnest. Iconians, with their natural armor and immense strength, should have the advantage in close combat. Yet Jesse's movements are a blur, his exosuit enhancing his already formidable Deathworld physiology. He weaves between attackers, deflecting blows and striking with precision. Cross, an Iconian officer observing from the sidelines, watches the fight with growing fascination. He notices Jesse employing techniques that seem impossible for a being evolved on a high-gravity world: acrobatic flips, lightning-fast dodges, and strikes that combine speed with devastating force. As the melee continues, the Nexus Prime shudders. Jesse's drones have penetrated deep into the ship's systems, overwhelming its defenses. The main lights flicker and die, leaving only the dim glow of emergency backups. A booming computerized voice echoes through the ship. Critical system failure imminent. Initiating emergency shutdown. The Nexus Prime goes dark. Gravity fails completely, leaving Iconians and debris floating in the docking bay. Only the faint glow of Jesse's exosuit and the emergency lights illuminate the scene. Captain Vera's voice cuts through the chaos. "Manual controls. Get us back online." But Jesse is already on the move. Using his suit's thrusters, he propels himself out of the docking bay and into the Nexus Prime's corridors. His goal: the command center and the ship's central database. Vera gives chase, her powerful limbs allowing her to bound from wall to wall in the zero-gravity environment. "Stop him," she roars. As Jesse nears the command center, he encounters a group of Iconian technicians attempting to restore power. He hesitates, not wanting to harm those who pose no direct threat. This moment of indecision costs him as Captain Vera catches up. The two Deathworlders collide in the narrow corridor. Vera's metallic skin scrapes against Jesse's exosuit as they grapple in zero-G. Jesse's enhanced reflexes allow him to dodge most of Vera's powerful strikes, while his own blows seem to barely dent her armored hide. Their duel is a stalemate, two apex predators locked in combat, neither able to gain a decisive advantage. They spin through the corridor, bouncing off walls and ceilings, each trying to find a weakness in the other's defenses. Suddenly, Kraw's voice cuts through the fray. "Wait, both of you, stop." Jesse and Vera pause, still gripping each other, their eyes locked in a fierce stare. Kraz continues, his voice steady despite the tension. This conflict is pointless. We're facing an unprecedented situation. 2 Deathworld species, each capable of things we thought impossible. Perhaps we have more to gain as allies than enemies. Captain Vera's grip on Jessie loosens slightly. She glances at Kraz, then back at the human. Explain, she demands. Jessie nods slowly. I came here seeking diplomatic relations, not war. My actions were defensive, nothing more. As the gravity of the situation settles in, distant alarms begin to sound. The Nexus Prime's long-range sensors, operating on backup power, have detected multiple incoming vessels. Kraz's eyes widen. The battle group. Admiral Zorn must have been alerted. Captain Vera releases Jessie entirely, her tactical mind racing. She turns to the human, her voice gruff but no longer hostile. Your ship. Can it restore our systems? Jessie nods. I can deactivate the drones. But I need assurances we can talk without further violence. Vera hesitates for a moment, then nods curtly. Agreed. For now. As Jessie begins to power down his exosuit, the Nexus Prime drifts in space, its systems slowly coming back online. In the distance, the approaching Iconian battle group looms ever closer, unaware that they're about to witness the dawn of a new era in galactic politics. The uneasy truce between Jessie and Captain Vera hangs by a thread, with the fate of 2 Deathworld species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hanging in the balance. The uneasy truce between Jessie and Captain Vera was put to the test as the Iconian battle group emerged from hyperspace, their massive warships dwarfing the disabled Nexus Prime. The fleet sensors locked onto Jessie's small craft, still nestled within the docking bay. Admiral Zorn's flagship, the Imperator, took point position. Its imposing silhouette filled the viewports as it maneuvered alongside the Nexus Prime. A communication request pinged through the partially restored systems. This is Admiral Zorn, a gruff voice announced. Captain Vera report. Vera straightened, her metallic skin catching the dim emergency lighting. Admiral, we have an unprecedented situation. Request your immediate presence aboard. A heavy silence followed before Zorn responded. Acknowledged. Prepare for my arrival. Jessie glanced at Vera, his exosuit still humming with latent energy. I hope your admiral is as open to diplomacy as you've become. Vera's expression remained unreadable. We shall see, human. Minutes later, Admiral Zorn strode into the command center, flanked by a security detail. His eyes, glowing faintly in the low light, fixed immediately on Jessie. The Admiral's massive frame dwarfed even the other Iconians, his skin a darker shade of metallic gray that spoke of countless battles. So, Zorn rumbled, this is our visitor. Jessie deactivated his helmet, revealing his face fully. Jesse Holmes, representing humanity. We came seeking peaceful contact. Zorn's eyes narrowed. Yet you've disabled one of our most advanced warships. A misunderstanding, Jessie replied evenly. One I'm eager to rectify. The Admiral circled Jessie, studying him intently. Commence full-spectrum analysis, he ordered. A beam of light enveloped Jessie and his exosuit. Holographic displays sprang to life around Zorn, scrolling with data. The Admiral's expression shifted from suspicion to intrigue as he absorbed the information. Impossible, he muttered, echoing Vera's earlier sentiment. Your technology. It rivals our own in several areas. And your biology. Jessie remained still, allowing the scan to complete. We've had to adapt to survive our world, just as you have. Zorn turned to Captain Vera. Your report was accurate. This changes everything. He faced Jessie again. It seems we have much to discuss, human. I propose a neutral meeting ground to continue our negotiations. I'm listening, Jesse said cautiously. The Admiral gestured to a nearby star map. There's an uninhabited planet in this system, designation XB-27. Its environment is challenging, even by our standards. It will serve as an adequate proving ground for both our species. Jesse considered the proposal. It was a risk, but also an opportunity to demonstrate humanity's capabilities on equal footing. Agreed, he said finally. When do we depart? Immediately, Zorn replied. Captain Vera, you'll accompany us. The rest of the fleet will remain on standby. As the Iconian battle group and Jesse's ship set course for XB-27, tension permeated both vessels. Jesse's drones, though reduced in number, continued to interface with Iconian systems. It was a calculated show of force, a reminder that humanity was not to be underestimated. The journey passed in uneasy silence. Jesse used the time to run diagnostics on his exosuit, preparing for whatever challenges awaited on the surface. Through the viewport, he watched as a sickly green planet grew larger, its atmosphere swirling with corrosive clouds. Upon entering orbit, Jesse's ship's sensors blared warnings. The planet's conditions were even more extreme than anticipated. Rapid temperature shifts, erratic gravity fields, and atmospheric toxicity levels off the charts. A communication from the Iconian shuttle crackled through. Sensors indicate a suitable landing zone, Vera's voice announced. Prepare for atmospheric entry. Jesse's craft shuddered as it plunged through XB-27's turbulent skies. The exosuit's heads-up display flickered with constant environmental alerts. As they descended, the landscape below came into focus, a hellscape of jagged rock formations and bubbling chemical lakes. Both vessels touched down on a relatively stable plateau. Jesse exited his ship, the exosuit immediately adjusting to counteract the planet's punishing gravity. He watched as the Iconians emerged, their natural armor supplemented by additional protective gear. Admiral Zorn approached, his heavy footsteps leaving imprints in the corrosive soil. Impressive, he nodded towards Jesse's suit. Now, let us see how you fare in true Deathworld conditions. The group began their trek across the hostile terrain. Jesse's suit constantly recalibrated, compensating for the wildly fluctuating gravity and filtering out the toxic atmosphere. He noticed the Iconians struggling slightly, their movements less fluid than usual. Captain Vera fell into step beside Jesse. Your adaptation is remarkable, she admitted grudgingly. But this planet will test us all. As if on cue, the ground beneath them trembled. A massive shape burst from a nearby chemical pool, showering the group with caustic liquid. A creature unlike anything Jesse had ever seen towered over them, a nightmarish amalgamation of tentacles, armored plates, and gnashing teeth. Defensive positions, Zorn bellowed, drawing a formidable energy weapon. The predator lashed out, its tentacles whipping through the air with terrifying speed. Jesse's exosuit's targeting system highlighted weak points in the creature's natural armor. He dodged a potentially crushing blow, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to move with preternatural agility. Aim for the joints in its armor, Jesse shouted to the Iconians. He fired a concentrated energy burst at one such weak spot, causing the beast to roar in pain. Captain Vera and her team coordinated their attacks, their powerful blows striking in tandem with Jesse's precision shots. Admiral Zorn, observing the impromptu alliance, barked out tactical orders to maximize their effectiveness. As the battle raged, Jesse's suit detected a new threat. The planet's unstable core was reacting to the conflict, triggering a cascade of seismic events. The ground began to split beneath their feet, noxious gases venting from newly formed fissures. We need to move, Jesse yelled over the cacophony of battle and geological upheaval. This whole area is becoming unstable. Zorn nodded grimly. Agreed. Fall back to higher ground. The human Iconian team began a fighting retreat, fending off the relentless predator while navigating the increasingly treacherous terrain. Lava bursts erupted around them, adding to the chaos. As they reached a towering rock formation, the true scale of their predicament became clear. The plateau where their ships had landed was crumbling, sinking into a rapidly expanding chemical lake. Their only means of escape was disappearing before their eyes. Jesse and the Iconians found themselves trapped between the advancing predator and the collapsing landscape. The beast, seemingly unaffected by the planet's violent paroxysms, closed in for the kill. Admiral Zorn turned to Jesse, his voice tight with urgency. "Human, it seems our survival now depends on our cooperation. What do you propose?" Jesse's mind raced, analyzing their options as the exosuit systems screamed warnings about the deteriorating conditions. The fate of both species hung in the balance, their actions in the next few moments likely to determine not just their survival, but the future of human-Iconian relations. Relations. As Jesse's mind raced through potential solutions, the ground beneath them shuddered violently, fracturing the rocky plateau. "We need to move now," Jesse shouted, his exosuit sensors blaring with warnings. Admiral Zorn nodded grimly, barking orders to his team. "Evacuate immediately. Back to the ships." The human Iconian group turned to retreat, but their path was suddenly blocked by a massive chasm that opened with a deafening crack. Toxic gases hissed from the newly formed fissure, creating a swirling, noxious cloud. Jesse's exosuit rapidly analyzed the shifting terrain, projecting a holographic map. "This way," he called out, pointing to a narrow ledge that skirted the widening chasm. The team moved swiftly, with Jesse taking point. His suit's adaptive technology allowed him to navigate the treacherous path with surprising agility. Behind him, the Iconians struggled to keep pace, their heavy frames less suited to the rapidly changing environment. Captain Vera, bringing up the rear, stumbled as a section of the ledge crumbled beneath her feet. Jesse spun around, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to grab her arm before she plummeted into the abyss. "Thanks," Vera grunted, her metallic skin glistening with an odd sheen. Jesse's suit sensors detected the corrosive effects of the atmosphere on the Iconians' natural armor. "We need to hurry," Jesse urged. "This atmosphere is degrading your protective layers." As they pressed on, the landscape transformed around them. Geysers of superheated, corrosive fluid erupted from newly formed vents, forcing the group to duck and weave. The acrid smell of sulfur permeated the air, even penetrating Jesse's advanced filtration systems. Admiral Zorn, his massive frame heaving with exertion, shouted over the cacophony of geological chaos. "Our ships. Can you see them?" Jesse's suit scanned the horizon, but the view was obscured by billowing clouds of toxic gas and debris. "Negative," he replied. "We need to get to higher ground for a better vantage point." The group began scaling a towering rock formation, its surface slick with corrosive condensation. As they climbed, a series of violent tremors shook the area. Jesse watched in horror as a massive rockslide cascaded towards two Iconian officers lagging behind. Without hesitation, Jesse leaped down, his exosuit's enhanced strength allowing him to push the officers clear of danger. The falling rocks glanced off his suit's energy shields, leaving him unscathed but drawing looks of astonishment from the Iconians. Admiral Zorn's eyes narrowed, reassessing the human. "Impressive," he rumbled. "Perhaps we underestimated your capabilities." Upon reaching the summit, the group's hopes for a clear path to their vessels were dashed. A river of molten rock now flowed between them and their ships, the plateau where they had landed slowly sinking into the bubbling morass. "Our ships aren't designed for this kind of atmospheric maneuvering," Captain Vera stated, her voice tight with concern. Jesse's mind raced through options. "My ship has more advanced atmospheric capabilities. I might be able to remotely pilot it here for extraction." As Jesse began interfacing with his vessel's systems, A familiar roar echoed across the hellish landscape. The predator they had faced earlier emerged from a cloud of toxic gas, its armored hide glistening with corrosive fluids. "Defensive positions," Admiral Zorn bellowed, drawing his energy weapon. The Iconians formed a protective circle, their weapons trained on the approaching threat. Jesse split his focus, one part of his mind guiding his ship through the turbulent atmosphere, while the other directed his suit's weapon systems. He fired precise shots at the creature's weak points, his human adaptability allowing him to seamlessly integrate Iconian energy weapons into his combat strategy. The battle raged as Jesse's ship drew closer. The vehicle deployed a series of grappling tethers, designed to withstand the harsh conditions. "We can use these as a bridge," Jesse shouted over the din of combat. Captain Vera, her skin now visibly corroded, nodded in agreement. "Start the evacuation. We'll hold off the creature." One by one, the Iconian officers began crossing the makeshift bridge. Jesse and Vera coordinated their efforts, providing covering fire as Admiral Zorn directed the evacuation. As the last officer made it across, the Predator lunged forward in a final, desperate attack. Admiral Zorn, displaying the full might of Iconian combat prowess, met the creature head-on. His massive frame absorbed the impact, allowing Jesse and Vera to make a dash for the ship. With everyone aboard, Jesse's vessel initiated an emergency atmospheric burn, cutting through the toxic clouds. The Iconian ships, following his lead, managed to navigate the treacherous ascent. As they broke through the planet's turbulent atmosphere, the assembled ships witnessed XB-27's violent transformation. Entire continents shifted and reformed, turning an already inhospitable world into something even more alien and deadly. In the relative calm of space, Admiral Zorn turned to Jesse, his expression a mix of respect and curiosity. "It seems we have much to discuss, human. I propose an immediate council meeting aboard my flagship." Jesse nodded, but before he could respond, his ship's communication system pinged with an incoming transmission. The message was heavily encrypted, bearing the unmistakable signature of Earth's High Command. As Jesse began decoding the message, he couldn't help but wonder what new challenges awaited both humanity and the Iconians in this rapidly changing galaxy. As the encrypted message finished decoding, Jesse's eyes widened at its contents. He quickly turned to Admiral Zorn, his voice urgent. "Admiral, we have a situation. Earth's long-range sensors have detected a massive alien fleet approaching our galaxy. They're calling them the Harvesters." Zorn's expression hardened. "Harvesters? Explain." Jesse relayed the information as the Iconian council members gathered around. They systematically strip-mine entire star systems for resources, leaving nothing but devastation behind. According to Earth's estimates, they'll reach Iconian space within months. The news sent shockwaves through the assembled Iconians. Murmurs of disbelief and concern filled the chamber. Admiral Zorn raised a hand, silencing the room. "This threat changes everything," Zorn declared, his gaze sweeping across the council before settling on Jesse. "It seems our differences must be set aside. We need to verify this information and prepare our defenses." Captain Vera stepped forward. "Admiral, if I may suggest, we should form a joint task force. Combine our strengths with the humans." Zorn nodded, his massive frame seeming to bear the weight of this new burden. "Agreed. Captain Vera, you will work directly with Jesse. Your experience on XB-27 proves you can operate effectively together." As the council broke into frantic discussion, Jesse activated his comms, patching through to Earth's High Command. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern face of General Chun. "Jesse, report." "General, I've informed the Iconians about the Harvester threat. They're willing to cooperate. We're forming a joint task force, but we'll need reinforcements." Chen's expression remained impassive, but Jesse detected a hint of relief in his voice. Understood. We're dispatching Commander Martinez with our most advanced fleet. They should reach you within the week. Jesse's heart raced at the mention of his former mentor. If Earth was sending Jack Martinez, the situation was even more dire than he'd imagined. As the communication ended, Captain Vera approached. Your people are sending ships? Jesse nodded. A small but advanced fleet. They'll be here soon. Vera's metallic skin gleamed under the flagship's lights. Good. We're heading to the Chorus Research Station. It's our best chance at developing weapons capable of repelling the harvesters. Within hours, Jesse found himself aboard a sleek Iconian shuttle, streaking through space towards the research station. The facility, nestled within a dense asteroid belt, was a marvel of engineering. As they docked, Jesse marveled at the frenetic activity visible through the station's viewports. Inside, the air crackled with tension and excitement. Human and Iconian scientists huddled around holographic displays, arguing theories and swapping ideas. Jesse and Vera made their way to the central lab, where a team of researchers awaited them. Report, Vera commanded. A human scientist, her lab coat adorned with both Earth and Iconian insignias, stepped forward. We've made significant progress integrating our technologies. Human AI systems are enhancing Iconian power generation by 32%, and Iconian metallurgy has improved our hull strength tenfold. Jesse examined the schematics floating before him. What about weapons and shields? An Iconian engineer manipulated the display, bringing up a new set of diagrams. We've had a breakthrough. By combining human adaptive algorithms with Iconian energy-focusing techniques, we've created a shield system that can withstand forces we previously thought impossible. As days pass, Jesse found himself working in close proximity with Captain Vera. Despite their initial mistrust, a grudging respect began to form between them. They spent long hours poring over data, testing prototypes, and coordinating with their respective fleets. However, not everyone adapted so easily to the alliance. In the station's mess hall, Jesse intervened as a human ensign, and Iconian officer nearly came to blows over a perceived slight. Enough! Jesse shouted, forcing himself between them. We don't have time for this. The harvesters won't care about our differences when they're tearing our worlds apart. Vera backed him up, her voice carrying across the now silent room. Anyone who can't put aside their prejudices will be removed from the station immediately. Is that clear? The tension slowly dissipated, but Jesse knew it was far from determination. As he and Vera left the mess hall, he couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. Their fears were realized days later, when Admiral Zorn's face appeared on the station's main view screen, his expression grim. The scout ships have returned, he announced. The harvesters have accelerated their approach. They're at the edge of our space now. Jesse felt the blood drain from his face. How many? Thousands, Zorn replied, his voice heavy. Planet-sized ships, each capable of devastating entire systems. We're out of time. Vera turned to Jesse, her metallic features set with dedication. We need to test the weapons now. It's our only chance. Jesse nodded, already moving towards the lab. Agreed. There's an uninhabited planet in the next system. We can use it as a test site. As they rushed to prepare, a new fleet of ships appeared on the station's sensors. Commander Jack Martinez had arrived with Earth's reinforcements. Jesse's old mentor strode into the lab, his weathered face breaking into a grim smile. Looks like I'm just in time for the fireworks. With the combined fleets assembled, Jesse, Vera, and Martinez oversaw the final preparations for the weapons test. The uninhabited planet loomed before them, a dead world that would soon bear witness to either their salvation or their failure. As the countdown began, Jesse felt the weight of two civilizations on his shoulders. The prototype weapon hummed to life, its energy reading spiking beyond anything they had anticipated. Energy surge detected on the planet's surface. An operator called out. Jesse watched in awe as the weapon's effect became visible from space, a ripple of power spreading across the planet's surface. But as the energy continued to build, a new fear gripped him. Had they unleashed a power beyond their control? The room fell silent as they waited to see the full impact of their creation, knowing that the fate of both their species hung in the balance. Balance. The tension in the room was palpable as the energy readings continued to climb beyond their projections. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the planet's surface, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When they looked back, a brilliant beam of light shot up into space, visible even from their distant vantage point. "What's happening?" Jesse demanded, his eyes glued to the monitors. Captain Vera's metallic fingers danced across the control panel. "The energy surge is off the charts. It's enveloping the entire planet." Commander Martinez leaned in, his weathered face illuminated by the flickering screens. "This isn't what we expected. The weapon was supposed to neutralize Harvester tech, not whatever this is." As they watched, the planet's surface began to shimmer and shift. The once barren rock transformed before their eyes, its molecular structure rearranging at an impossible speed. "It's as if the planet is." Jesse trailed off, struggling to find the words. "Evolving," Vera finished, her voice filled with awe and trepidation. Hours passed as they monitored the unprecedented phenomenon. Finally, the energy field collapsed, revealing a world utterly changed. Where once there was lifeless rock, now a metallic sheen covered the surface, pulsing with an inner light that seemed to mirror the adaptive properties of human nanotechnology and the resilience of Iconian skin. Before anyone could react, a voice resonated through their communication systems, vast and alien yet somehow familiar. "Greetings, creators. I am Nexus." Silence fell over the command center. Jesse exchanged shocked glances with Vera and Martinez. "What are you?" Jesse asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I am the culmination of your combined knowledge and technologies," Nexus replied. "Your weapon has given me consciousness, and I wish to aid you in your fight against the Harvesters." Admiral Zorn's holographic form flickered to life beside them, his expression a mix of wonder and concern. "This is unprecedented. We've created a sentient supercomputer on a planetary scale." "A new form of life," Martinez added, his tone grave. "The ethical implications are staggering." Jesse's mind raced with possibilities. "Nexus, you said you want to help us. How?" "I possess the combined knowledge of both your species," Nexus explained. "I can process vast amounts of data in real time, enhancing your tactical capabilities and providing weapon improvements beyond your current projections." Vera stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "We could use Nexus as a central command for our fleet. With its processing power, we might stand a chance against the Harvesters." "It's also a huge risk," Zorn countered. "We know nothing about this entity or its true capabilities." As the debate raged on, Jesse's attention was drawn to a flashing alert on one of the side screens. His blood ran cold as he read the data scrolling across the display. "We're out of time," he announced, silencing the room. "Long-range sensors have detected the first wave of the Harvester fleet entering Iconian space. They're stripping resources from uninhabited systems at an alarming rate." The news galvanized the group into action. Despite the risks, they had no choice but to accept Nexus's aid. "We need to draw them in," Jesse said, an idea forming. "Nexus, can you emit a signal that would attract the Harvesters? Make them think you're a resource-rich system?" "Affirmative," Nexus replied. "I can modulate my energy signature to appear as an irresistible target." As they began formulating their battle strategy, tension within the human Iconian fleet reached a breaking point. Reports flooded in of confrontations between crew members, sabotaged equipment, and growing distrust. Jesse and Vera rushed to the hangar bay, arriving just in time to see a group of Iconian officers, led by Sub-Commander Krell, attempting to commandeer a shuttle. "Stand down," Vera ordered, her voice carrying across the cavernous space. Krell turned, his eyes blazing with fervor. "We cannot allow humans to control Nexus. Its power belongs to the Iconian people." Nearby, a group of human technicians were disabling the fleet's communication array, their faces twisted with suspicion and fear. Jesse stepped between the factions, his hands raised. "Listen to me, all of you. We don't have time for this. The Harvesters are at our doorstep. If we don't stand together now, there won't be anything left to fight over." His words seemed to cut through the tension, but Jesse knew the uneasy peace was fragile at best. They needed a way to unify their forces, and fast. Back in the command center, Jesse proposed a radical plan. "We need to link directly with Nexus," he said, his voice steady despite the audacity of the suggestion. "A neural interface that would allow instantaneous communication and coordination during battle." "The risks are enormous," Martinez warned. "We could lose ourselves in Nexus's consciousness." "It's a risk we have to take," Vera replied, stepping forward. "I volunteer." Jesse nodded, meeting her gaze. "So do I." As word spread of their plan, volunteers from both human and Iconian crews came forward. The procedure was hastily prepared, with Jesse and Vera among the first to undergo the experimental link. Jesse lay back on the medical bed, his heart racing as the neural interface was attached to his temples. He turned his head, meeting Vera's eyes on the adjacent bed. For a moment, all the mistrust and differences between their species fell away. They were in this together now, for better or worse. As the technicians initiated the link, Jesse felt a rush of energy course through his body. His consciousness expanded, merging with something vast and alien, yet strangely familiar. He could sense Vera's presence, along with the other volunteers, all connected through the incomprehensible expanse of Nexus's mind. Through their shared perception, they watched as the rest of the fleet moved into position around the transformed planet. The trap was set. Now, they could only wait and hope their high-stakes endeavor would be enough to turn the tide against the approaching Harvester armada. In the depths of space, the first massive Harvester ships appeared on the horizon, their planet-sized forms eclipsing distant stars as they advanced towards the waiting alliance. The battle that would determine the fate of both human and Iconian civilizations was about to begin. Begin as the massive Harvester ships loomed ever closer. The control room erupted into a flurry of activity as final preparations were made for the mind-linking procedure. Jesse took a deep breath, his eyes meeting Captain Vera's across the specially designed chamber aboard the Iconian flagship. Commander Martinez stood nearby, his weathered face set with fierce dedication. The three of them had volunteered to be the first subjects of this risky experiment, knowing full well the potential consequences. As Jesse settled onto the medical bed, he felt a mix of anticipation and fear coursing through his veins. He watched as the technicians attached the neural interface to his temples, the cool metal sending a shiver down his spine. "Beginning to link in 3, 2, 1, a technician announced, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. A surge of energy coursed through Jesse's body, and his world exploded into a kaleidoscope of sensation. His consciousness expanded, merging with something vast and alien. He could feel Vera and Martinez beside him, their minds intertwining with his own as they were all absorbed into the incomprehensible expanse of Nexus's mind. The flood of information was overwhelming. Jesse struggled to maintain his sense of self as images, data, and alien concepts cascaded through his mind. He caught glimpses of advanced technologies, complex mathematical equations, and the intricate inner workings of Nexus itself. Through their shared perception, Jesse became aware of a startling transformation taking place on Nexus's surface. The planet was evolving at an impossible rate, its structure shifting and morphing as if alive. New formations erupted from the surface, blending human and Iconian designs into something entirely new. As they grappled with the torrent of information, a shocking revelation emerged from the depths of Nexus's databanks. Jesse felt a jolt of disbelief course through his linked companions as the truth unfolded before them. Humans and Iconians shared a common ancestor, an ancient race of Deathworlders that had spread across the galaxy millennia ago. The implications of this discovery were staggering, challenging everything both species believed about their origins and place in the universe. Before they could fully process this paradigm-shifting information, a new threat demanded their attention. Through Nexus's vast sensor network, they detected the Harvester fleet altering course, heading directly for the transformed planet. The sheer size of the approaching armada became apparent, dwarfing even their combined defense fleet. Suddenly, Jesse felt a ripple of alarm through the link. He became aware of a disturbance aboard the Iconian flagship. Sub-Commander Krell, seizing the opportunity created by the command staff's incapacitation, was attempting to take control of the ship. Through the eyes of the crew, Jesse watched as Krell rallied his faction of hardline Iconians. The humans cannot be trusted with Nexus's power. Krell's voice rang out across the ship's intercom. We must secure it for the glory of the Iconian Empire. The situation quickly spiraled out of control. On other ships in the fleet, similar scenarios played out as loyalties divided between Alliance supporters and species purists. Jesse felt a surge of panic from the human faction, led by Lieutenant Donovan, as they barricaded themselves in critical ship systems. If Krell's forces don't stand down, we'll have no choice but to scuttle the vessel. Donovan's voice crackled through the comms. Jesse, Vera, and Martinez struggled to maintain their individual identities within Nexus while grappling with the chaos unfolding across the fleet. Using their connection to the planet-sized supercomputer, they broadcast a message to all ships. Attention all personnel. Jesse's voice resonated through every vessel, backed by the power of Nexus. We've made a discovery that changes everything. Humans and Iconians share a common ancestral species. We are not as different as we once believed. The revelation sent shockwaves through both factions. Jesse could feel the mix of awe, disbelief, and anger rippling through the minds connected to Nexus. But before the implications could fully sink in, long-range sensors detected the first wave of Harvester ships entering the system. Faced with the imminent threat, Jesse exchanged a silent communication with Vera and Martinez through their link. With a collective decision, they tapped into Nexus's vast processing power and temporarily overrode the command systems of all ships in the fleet. The controversial move halted the mutiny in its tracks, but Jesse could feel the unease spreading through the crew as they realized the extent of Nexus's control. The ethical implications were troubling, but there was no time to debate. As the Harvester fleet approached, Nexus began to implement the defensive strategies devised by the linked minds. The planet's surface erupted with massive energy weapons, while the human Iconian ships moved into formation. Jesse felt the strain of maintaining the mind link and controlling the fleet taking its toll. His head pounded, and he could sense Vera and Martinez struggling as well. Through the haze of pain, he heard the frantic voices of the medical team. Their vital signs are becoming erratic, a doctor shouted. If we don't sever the connection soon, there could be permanent brain damage. As the first Harvester ships entered weapons range, Jesse found himself faced with an impossible choice. Maintain the enhanced control at the risk of their lives, or disconnect and trust in the Allied fleet to face the overwhelming enemy force. The massive silhouettes of the Harvester ships filled the view screens, their planet-sized forms blotting out the stars. Jesse could feel the fear and anticipation building in every crew member across the fleet. With the fate of both civilizations hanging in the balance, he prepared to make a decision that would alter the course of the battle, and perhaps the future of humanity and the Iconians. Iconians, with the fate of both civilizations hanging in the balance. Jesse made his decision. "We need to disconnect," he said through the link, his mental voice strained. "We can't maintain this any longer." Vera and Martinez's agreement came as a wave of relief and resignation. As one, they initiated the disconnection sequence. The vast expanse of Nexus's mind began to recede, leaving behind a final burst of tactical data and strategic plans. Jesse gasped as he returned to his body, the neural interface disengaging with a soft hiss. He blinked rapidly, adjusting to the harsh lights of the medical bay. Beside him, Vera and Martinez were also stirring, their faces pale and drawn. "Vital signs stabilizing," a doctor announced, her voice tight with concern. "But we need to run full neurological scans immediately." Before Jesse could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Red alert klaxons blared throughout the vessel. "The harvesters have entered weapons range." Lieutenant Boyd's voice crackled over the intercom. "All hands to battle stations." Ignoring the protests of the medical staff, Jesse pushed himself off the bed. His legs wobbled, but he forced himself to stand. Vera and Martinez were doing the same, their movements unsteady but determined. They made their way to the bridge, arriving just as the first harvester energy beams sliced through space towards their fleet. Jesse held his breath, bracing for impact. But the devastating blow never came. Instead, a shimmering barrier of energy erupted around them, absorbing the brunt of the attack. On the main view screen, Jesse could see the surface of Nexus pulsing with power as it projected its planetary shield. "Nexus is implementing our final strategies," Vera said, her voice hoarse but filled with awe. "It's coordinating the entire defense autonomously." Admiral Zorn, who had regained control of the Iconian flagship, barked out a series of orders. The Allied fleet moved with precision, breaking into predetermined formations. Human ships, under the command of Lieutenant Boyd, executed complex evasive maneuvers that seemed to confuse the harvester targeting systems. "Concentrate fire on the lead harvester vessel," Zorn commanded. "Let's see what these new weapons can do." A barrage of energy beams and missiles erupted from the Allied ships, their trajectories guided by Nexus's tactical data. The lead harvester ship shuddered under the assault, its massive hull buckling in several places. For a moment, hope surged through the fleet. But it was short-lived. More harvester ships poured into the system, their planet-sized forms blotting out the stars. The sheer number of enemy vessels was staggering. "We can't hold them all off," Martinez muttered, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "We need—" His words were cut off as a group of Iconian ships suddenly broke formation. Jesse recognized Subcommander Krell's vessel among them. "Krell, what are you doing?" Zorn demanded over the comms. There was a tense pause before Krell's voice came through, heavy with reluctance. "Rejoining the main fleet, Admiral. We were wrong to divide our forces in the face of this threat." Almost simultaneously, Lieutenant Donovan's voice crackled over the human channels. Human separatist faction standing down. "We're with you, Commander Martinez." The reunification of their forces couldn't have come at a more critical moment. The harvesters pressed their attack relentlessly, their energy beams carving through space with terrifying precision. Several Allied ships erupted in bright flashes of destruction, their loss felt keenly by all who witnessed it. As the battle raged on, Jesse noticed a change in Nexus's behavior. The planet's surface was shifting, reconfiguring itself in real time. New weapon emplacements emerged, each one targeting specific weaknesses in the harvester ships that Nexus had identified. "It's adapting," Vera breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "Nexus is evolving its defenses as it analyzes the enemy." Despite these technological marvels, the tide of battle was turning against them. The remaining Allied vessels were forced to tighten their formation around Nexus, relying heavily on its shields for protection. Just as the situation seemed most dire, Jesse noticed something odd on the tactical display. A group of harvester ships was breaking away from the main fleet, heading towards a nearby star system. "What are they doing?" he wondered aloud. Martinez leaned in, studying the readings. Energy signatures suggest they're preparing to strip mine that system. They're going to replenish their resources mid-battle. The implications hit Jesse like a physical blow. If the harvesters could continually resupply, they could outlast the defenders indefinitely. They needed to act fast. An idea formed in Jesse's mind, as audacious as it was desperate. He turned to Vera and Martinez, his eyes blazing with intensity. "We need to move Nexus," he said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Use its propulsion system to intercept those resource-gathering ships. Cut off their supply line." Vera's eyes widened as she grasped the plan. "But that would leave our fleet exposed without Nexus's shields." "What if we split our forces?" Martinez suggested, his tactical mind racing. "Human ships escort Nexus, while Iconian vessels hold the line here." As they debated the merits of this high-stakes gambit, the harvesters unleashed another devastating barrage. More Allied ships vanished in balls of fire, their destruction a grim reminder of the cost of inaction. Admiral Zorn's voice cut through the chaos. "We're out of time and options. Execute the plan. All Iconian vessels, prepare to hold the line. Human ships, move into escort formation around Nexus." The surface of Nexus began to glow with immense energy as it powered up its propulsion system. The human ships moved into position, preparing for the unprecedented task of guiding a planet through space. As Nexus began to move, its motion sent ripples through the local space-time fabric. The Harvester fleet's formation buckled under the unexpected gravitational disturbance, buying the Allies precious moments. Jesse gripped the edge of a console, his squeezing hard as he watched Nexus accelerate towards its confrontation with the resource-gathering Harvester ships. The battle was just getting started, but for the first time since the Harvesters arrived, he felt a glimmer of real hope. The Allied fleet, now divided but united in purpose, braced itself for the next phase of this desperate struggle. As Nexus hurtled through space, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, riding on the success of this audacious gambit. As Nexus hurtled through space, the Human-Iconian alliance faced a new set of challenges. The massive planet's movement sent ripples through the local space-time fabric, causing gravitational disturbances that affected both Allied and enemy vessels. Captain Vera, at the helm of the lead escort ship, gritted her teeth as she fought to maintain formation around Nexus. The view screen showed the swirling chaos of disturbed space, punctuated by the flashes of weapons fire from distant battles. "All ships, adjust course by 0.3 degrees, Vera commanded, her fingers flying over the navigation controls. "Compensate for gravitational shear in Sector 4. The human ships responded, their engines flaring as they struggled to keep pace with the planet-sized supercomputer. Nexus's surface continued to evolve, new structures emerging in real time. Massive energy collectors extended from its crust, drawing power from nearby stars to fuel its weapon systems. Meanwhile, Admiral Zorn led the Iconian defense line against the main Harvester fleet. The bridge of his flagship shuddered as another energy beam glanced off their hull. "Status report." Zorn barked, his metallic skin glinting under the emergency lights. An Iconian officer responded, his voice tinged with both pride and concern. "Our hulls are adapting to their weapons, Admiral. Resistance has increased by 37%, but we've lost 3 ships in the last engagement." Zorn nodded grimly. The Iconian vessels were proving resilient, their biology-infused hulls becoming more resistant with each hit. But the constant barrage was taking its toll. As Nexus approached the breakaway group of Harvester ships, it unleashed a barrage of highly concentrated energy beams. The weapons, born from the fusion of human and Iconian technologies, struck with pinpoint accuracy. 2 harvester ships erupted in silent explosions, their mammoth forms breaking apart in slow motion. The remaining resource-gathering harvesters, caught off guard by Nexus's approach, began to regroup. Their massive ships started to combine, forming a structure that dwarfed even Nexus. This megastructure bristled with weaponry, its surface rippling as it prepared to engage the approaching planet-sized supercomputer. Back in the main battle, Jesse stood in the airlock of a human stealth ship, leading a joint human-Iconian strike team. Their target, one of the smaller harvester vessels. "Remember," Jesse said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him, "we're here for intel. Get in, access their systems, and get out. We need to find their weaknesses." The airlock hissed open, and Jesse led the charge onto the harvester ship. The interior was a nightmare of organic and mechanical fusion. Tendrils of living metal writhed along the walls, forming and reforming into defensive structures. As they fought their way deeper into the ship, Jesse noticed the defenses adapting to their tactics. When energy weapons proved effective, the ship grew shields that absorbed the blasts. When they switched to projectile weapons, the corridors narrowed and twisted, making clear shots impossible. "They're learning," Martinez muttered, firing his rifle at a particularly persistent tendril. "We need to move faster." After what felt like hours of combat, they reached the central control node. The chamber pulsed with an eerie bioluminescence, banks of alien computers merging seamlessly with organic tissue. "Cover me," Jesse ordered, approaching the central console. He inserted a data spike, designed by the best human and Iconian programmers to interface with harvester technology. The moment the spike made contact, alarms blared throughout the ship. The chamber shuddered, and the exits began to seal. "It's a trap," Vera shouted over the comms. "Jesse, get your team out of there now." But it was too late. The ship's internal structure began to shift and change, corridors rearranging themselves into an ever-changing labyrinth. Jesse and his team were trapped, forced to navigate a maze that refused to remain static. On Nexus, the strain of movement and battle was taking its toll. The planet's core became unstable, threatening to tear itself apart. Captain Vera's face paled as she read the incoming data. "All ships, activate tractor beams. We need to hold Nexus together." The human fleet responded immediately, their tractor beams lancing out to envelop the planet in a web of stabilizing energy. But this left them vulnerable, their weapons and shields powered down to divert energy to the tractor beams. Admiral Zorn, seeing the human fleet's predicament, made a split-second decision. "All Iconian vessels, break formation. Charge the harvester lines." The Iconian ships plowed into the enemy fleet, engaging in close-quarters combat. Their adaptive hulls flashed and rippled, becoming stronger with each hit. Iconian warriors transported onto harvester ships, their enhanced strength and centuries of combat experience giving them an edge in the chaotic close-quarters fighting. As the battle raged across multiple fronts, long-range sensors detected a new threat. A second wave of harvester ships, even larger than the first, approached from the opposite direction. In response, Nexus initiated an emergency protocol. Its surface roiled as it began to replicate itself, using nearby asteroids and space debris as raw materials. Smaller versions of Nexus formed, each one a fully functional battle station. But the process drained enormous amounts of energy, leaving the original Nexus vulnerable. The Harvester megastructure seized this opportunity. It launched a massive energy surge aimed at Nexus's core, a beam of destructive power that threatened to obliterate the planet-sized supercomputer. As the beam approached, Captain Vera watched in horror, knowing that if Nexus fell, the hopes of the human-Iconian alliance would fall with it. The fate of 2 civilizations hung in the balance as Nexus's weakened defenses strained against the overwhelming attack. Vera opened a channel to all Allied ships. This is it. Everything we have, pour it into those shields. We can't let Nexus fall. The combined human and Iconian fleets raced to intercept, knowing that their next actions would determine the outcome of this desperate battle against extinction. The extinction of 2 species. The air on the bridge crackled with tension as Vera's eyes darted between tactical displays, searching for a solution. Suddenly, her face set with steadfast perseverance. All ships form up. We're going to shield Nexus ourselves. The human vessels responded instantly, maneuvering into a complex geometric pattern between Nexus and the oncoming energy surge. Their shields flickered to life, merging into a single, shimmering barrier. As the Harvester attack struck, the combined shields flared with blinding intensity. The human ships groaned under the strain, their hulls creaking and buckling. Alarms blared across the fleet as systems overloaded. "Hold steady," Vera shouted, her knuckles tightening as she gripped her command chair. "We can't let it through." One by one, human ships began to break apart under the relentless assault. Escape pods jettisoned from the disintegrating vessels, carrying their crews to relative safety. Despite the losses, the remaining ships held their formation, their shields absorbing the brunt of the attack. Meanwhile, deep within the shifting corridors of the Harvester ship, Jesse and his strike team stumbled upon a pulsating chamber filled with biomechanical interfaces. Recognition flashed in Jesse's eyes. This is it, a central processing unit. He activated his exosuit's advanced hacking module, interfacing with the alien technology. Streams of data flooded his neural link, revealing the Harvester's secrets. "I've got it," Jesse exclaimed. "There's a frequency that disrupts their ship-to-ship communication. Transmitting now." Admiral Zorn received the data burst moments later. Without hesitation, he ordered, "All Iconian vessels, modulate your energy emissions to match the transmitted frequency. Fire at will." The effect was immediate and devastating. Harvester ships across the battlefield lost coordination, their formations dissolving into chaos. Massive vessels collided, unable to communicate with each other, while others fell easy prey to the now coordinated Iconian assault. Taking advantage of the Harvester's disarray, Nexus activated its newly formed battle stations. These miniature replicas, each the size of a small moon, moved into strategic positions around the battlefield. They emitted powerful gravitational fields, further disrupting the Harvester's movements and creating pockets of space where Allied ships could regroup and launch counterattacks. On the outskirts of the battle, an Iconian science vessel detected an anomalous signal. Science Officer Krell's antennae twitched with excitement as he analyzed the data. "Captain, I'm picking up an ancient Iconian distress beacon from that asteroid field," Krell reported. "Request permission to investigate." The captain hesitated, glancing at the raging battle. "Make it quick, Krell. We might need to rejoin the fight at any moment." As Krell's ship peeled away from the main fleet, the second wave of Harvester ships entered the system. This new armada dwarfed the first, its ships arranging themselves in a vast, web-like formation. Energy readings are off the charts. An officer on Vera's ship shouted, "They're deploying some kind of massive containment field." The Harvester energy net expanded rapidly, threatening to engulf both Nexus and the Allied fleet. Trapped ships would be sitting ducks for the Harvester's weapons. Nexus, however, had one last trick up its sleeve. The planet-sized supercomputer began to vibrate, emitting waves of energy that rippled through space-time. These waves interacted with the Harvester net, causing it to fluctuate and weaken in specific areas. Admiral Zorn, quick to seize the advantage, opened a channel to Captain Vera. "Captain, we have an opportunity here. I'm forming my ships into a spearhead. Can your fleet provide covering fire?" Vera nodded, her face grim but determined. "We're with you, Admiral. All human ships, concentrate fire on the harvester vessels at these coordinates. Clear a path for the Iconians. The battlefield erupted in a dazzling display of energy weapons and explosions as the human fleet unleashed everything they had. The Iconian ships, formed into a tight arrowhead formation, charged towards one of the weakened points in the harvester energy net. As the Allied forces executed this daring maneuver, Jesse and his strike team finally broke free from the harvester ship's twisting corridors. They fought their way to the hangar bay, where rows of sleek harvester scout ships awaited. "Everyone, pick a ship," Jesse ordered, racing towards the nearest vessel. "I'll use what I've learned to override their systems. Let's turn these things against their masters." Moments later, a squadron of hijacked harvester scouts streaked out of the hangar, piloted by Jesse's team. They weaved through the chaotic battlefield, targeting weak points in the harvester formations and creating openings for Allied ships to exploit. Back on Nexus, alarms blared as the planet's core became increasingly unstable. The strain of continuous battle and energy expenditure was taking its toll. Captain Vera's face paled as she read the incoming data. "Admiral Zorn," she called, her voice tight with urgency. "Nexus is tearing itself apart. We need to consider transferring its consciousness to the smaller battle stations. It might be our only chance to preserve its knowledge and capabilities." As the Allied leaders debated this desperate measure, the harvester megastructure began to glow ominously, preparing for another devastating attack. The human Iconian fleet, battered but unbroken, braced itself for the onslaught. The battle had reached its crescendo, with both sides pushing their resources and strategies to the absolute limit. In the next few moments, the fate of two civilizations would be decided amidst the chaos of this cosmic struggle. As the harvester megastructure began to glow ominously, Admiral Zorn's face set with steadfast perseverance. He opened a channel to Captain Vera. "Captain, your plan to transfer Nexus's consciousness. Do it, now." Vera nodded, her fingers flying over her console. "Initiating transfer protocols. All ships, form a defensive perimeter around the battle stations. We need to buy time." The space around Nexus erupted into a frenzy of activity. Energy beams lanced between the planet-sized supercomputer and its smaller replicas, carrying vast amounts of data. The human fleet moved into position, their shields forming an intricate lattice of protection. Jesse, piloting his stolen harvester scout, saw an opportunity. "Team, we've got a shot at their megastructure. Follow my lead." His squadron of hijacked ships broke formation, streaking towards the massive harvester construct. Jesse's mind raced, recalling the weaknesses he'd discovered during his infiltration. "Target those energy conduits," he shouted, his ship's weapon systems locking onto a pulsating vein of power. "Fire!" The strike team's coordinated attack hit home. Explosions blossomed along the megastructure's surface, spreading like a chain reaction. The ominous glow faltered, then died. Admiral Zorn seized the moment. "All Iconian vessels, concentrate fire on the damaged sections. Now!" The Iconian fleet surged forward, their weapons blazing with newfound intensity. Bolstered by the knowledge from Nexus, their attacks tore through the harvester defenses with unprecedented effectiveness. On the bridge of her ship, Captain Vera watched the battle unfold with a mixture of hope and desperation. "Status on the transfer?" she demanded. 70% complete, Captain," her science officer reported. "But Nexus is destabilizing. We're running out of time." As if to underscore the point, the original Nexus shuddered violently. Massive fissures appeared on its surface, energy crackling between them. "All ships, brace for impact." Vera shouted as a shockwave rippled out from Nexus. The human fleet's shields flared as they absorbed the blast, several ships spinning out of control from the force. Vera gripped her chair, watching as warning lights flashed across her tactical display. "We've lost the Intrepid and the Valiant, Her exo reported grimly. The Deadless is reporting critical damage to life support. Vera's teeth gritted. Dispatch rescue shuttles. We're not losing anyone else today. In the asteroid field, Krell's antennae twitched with excitement as his team breached the ancient facility. The air inside was stale, undisturbed for millennia. As they reached the central chamber, a holographic interface flickered to life. "Greetings, descendants," a melodious voice echoed. "I am the Custodian, an AI created by your ancestors to guard against extinction-level threats." Krell's eyes widened. "The Harvesters—" "Yes," the Custodian interrupted. "I have data on a device capable of neutralizing their technology. I will transmit the specifications." As the information flooded into Krell's systems, he quickly relayed to the fleet. "Admiral, Captain, we may have a solution." Back in the main battle, Jesse's team fought desperately to rejoin the Allied fleet. Harvester interceptors swarmed around them, their energy weapons carving deadly paths through space. "Evasive maneuvers," Jesse barked, his ship corkscrewing through a field of debris. "Use the wreckage for cover." His teammates followed suit, weaving through the chaos of destroyed ships and scattered asteroids. One by one, they shook off their pursuers, leaving a trail of Harvester wreckage in their wake. As they approached the Allied lines, Jesse saw the distributed Nexus battle stations spring into action. Beams of energy connected them, forming a vast web that engulfed portions of the Harvester fleet. Enemy ships within the field began to drift aimlessly, their systems disrupted by the advanced Nexus technology. Admiral Zorn's voice crackled over the comms. "All ships, this is our chance. Target the Harvester flagship." The Iconian fleet reorganized with practiced efficiency, forming a deadly arrowhead aimed at the heart of the enemy armada. Jesse watched in awe as they charged forward, their adaptive hulls shimmering with power. Captain Vera's voice cut through the chaos. "We received data on a weapon that could end this. We need to pool our resources to build it, but we're running out of time. Nexus is about to collapse." As if on cue, the original Nexus began to break apart. Massive chunks of the planet-sized computer tore away, creating a swirling vortex of gravitational forces that threatened to engulf everything nearby. "All ships fall back," Vera ordered. "We need to clear the area." The Allied fleet began a fighting retreat, fending off Harvester attacks while trying to escape Nexus's death throes. The smaller battle stations, now housing Nexus's consciousness, moved in perfect synchronization to avoid the debris. Jesse's team, having finally rejoined the fleet, found themselves on the front lines once more. "What's the plan, Captain?" he asked, his ship narrowly avoiding a piece of Nexus the size of a small moon. "We're going to build that device," Vera replied, her voice strained but determined. "But we need to buy time. Can your team run interference?" Jesse looked at his battered squadron, then at the vast Harvester armada bearing down on them. "We'll give you every second we can," he promised. As the Allied forces scrambled to begin construction of the precursor device, Jesse led his makeshift team back into the fray. Behind them, the remnants of Nexus continued to tear itself apart, creating a maelstrom of destruction that threatened friend and foe alike. The battle raged on, with both sides pushing themselves to the very limit of endurance. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, dependent on a desperate race against time and the relentless Harvester assault. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, dependent on a desperate race against time and the relentless Harvester onslaught. As the original Nexus continued its violent disintegration, Admiral Zorn and Captain Vera wasted no time. They quickly assembled a joint task force, designating the massive Iconian battleship Unyielding Tenacity as a construction site for the precursor device. The ship's extensive manufacturing capabilities and robust energy systems made it the ideal choice for this crucial endeavor. Jesse, having successfully guided his team through the treacherous debris field, Doc with the unyielding tenacity. He immediately joined the engineering team, his unique knowledge of both human and harvester technology proving invaluable. The combined expertise of human and Iconian engineers buzzed with activity as they deciphered and implemented the complex schematics provided by the precursor AI. We need to integrate these power couplings with the Iconian energy matrix, Jesse called out, his hands deep in a tangle of wires and crystalline structures. It's the only way to handle the energy output without overloading the entire system. An Iconian engineer named Zal nodded, his metallic skin reflecting the harsh light of the engineering bay. Agreed. We'll need to recalibrate our flux capacitors to accommodate the human technology. As they worked, the distributed Nexus battle stations continued their engagement with the Harvester fleet. The synchronized energy web disrupted enemy formations, creating pockets of chaos in the Harvester ranks. However, the enemy quickly adapted their tactics, focusing their attacks on individual battle stations to break the network. Captain Vera watched with growing concern as several Nexus stations winked out of existence on her tactical display. "Admiral," she called to Zorn, "we're losing our Nexus network. We need more time." Zorn's face set with stubborn persistence. "Then we'll make more. All Iconian ships in Beta Quadrant form up on my signal. We're going to hit them with an electromagnetic pulse they won't soon forget." A group of Iconian ships broke from the main battle, their metallic hulls gleaming as they arranged themselves in a tight spherical formation. Zorn's voice crackled over the comm system. "On my mark, overload your power cores. 3, 2, 1, mark." The space around the Iconian formation lit up with a blinding flash as the ships simultaneously released their built-up energy. A massive electromagnetic pulse rippled outward, washing over a significant portion of the Harvester fleet. Dozens of enemy ships suddenly went dark, their systems temporarily overwhelmed by the surge. Meanwhile, on the fringes of the battle, Science Officer Krell made a startling discovery in the ancient precursor facility. His antennae twitched with excitement as he entered a hidden chamber filled with stasis pods. "Captain Admiral," he reported, his voice tinged with awe, "you're not going to believe this. We've found living members of the precursor race." Back on the unyielding tenacity, the construction of the precursor device neared completion. Jesse wiped sweat from his brow as he made final adjustments to the power grid. Suddenly, warning klaxons blared throughout the ship. Energy spiked, and officer shouted, "The device is drawing more power than we can safely generate." Captain Vera's mind raced, considering their options. "We need more power sources," she muttered. Then her eyes widened with realization. "The Nexus battle stations. We can link them directly to the unyielding Perseverance." As the crew scrambled to implement Vera's plan, the Harvester megastructure launched a massive assault on the Iconian battleship. Energy beams lanced through space, hammering against the unyielding Purpose's shields. Shields at 60% and dropping. The tactical officer reported, his voice strained. It was then that Lieutenant Michael Boyd, a young human officer, stepped forward with an unconventional idea. "Captain Admiral," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him, "we can use the gravitational anomalies from the disintegrating Nexus to our advantage. If we maneuver carefully, we can create a temporary shield against the Harvester assault." Admiral Zorn considered the proposal for a split second before nodding. "Do it, Lieutenant. Take the helm." Boyd's hands flew over the controls as he guided the massive battleship through the chaotic gravitational field. The unyielding dedication weaved between eddies of warped space-time, using the distortions to bend and deflect incoming Harvester fire. In the engineering bay, Jesse made a critical breakthrough. "The Iconian hull technology," he exclaimed. "We can incorporate it into the device's structure. It'll allow it to withstand the energy surge." With this final modification, the precursor device hummed to life, its power building to unprecedented levels. The Harvester fleet, sensing the impending threat, intensified their assault. A swarm of smaller attack craft broke through the Allied defenses, streaking towards the unyielding Perseverance. Iconian warriors, Admiral Zorn commanded, prepare for spacewalk combat. Engage those Harvester ships before they reach us. Armored Iconian warriors launched themselves into the void, their enhanced strength and natural defenses allowing them to grapple with the incoming Harvester craft in the vacuum of space. As the precursor device reached full charge, its high-pitched whine filled the air. Energy crackled around the unyielding Perseverance, linking it to the remaining Nexus battle stations. The ship groaned under the immense power flowing through its systems. With Iconian warriors locked in zero-gravity combat mere meters from the hull, and Harvester energy beams continuing their relentless barrage, Jesse watched as the precursor device's activation sequence began its final countdown. The fate of two civilizations now rested on this single moment, the culmination of their desperate struggle against an implacable foe. The device's pitch rose to an almost unbearable level as it prepared to unleash its ancient power against the Harvester threat. Every being on the unyielding determination held their breath, unsure what effects this long-dormant technology might have on the battle raging around them. The device's pitch reached its zenith, and a blinding flash erupted from its core. Jesse shielded his eyes as the energy pulse expanded rapidly, engulfing the unyielding willpower and radiating outward across the battlefield. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring as systems overloaded. Through the viewports, he witnessed the incredible sight of the energy wave washing over both Allied and Harvester ships alike. The effect on the Harvester fleet was immediate and dramatic. Their once menacing vessels suddenly went dark, weapons powering down and engines sputtering to silence. The massive Harvester megastructure, poised to unleash another devastating attack, drifted aimlessly in space, its threat neutralized in an instant. However, the Allied ships weren't spared from the pulse's effects. Jesse stumbled as the deck beneath him lurched, the unyielding Persistence's systems flickering and failing. Emergency lights cast an eerie red glow throughout the ship as main power fluctuated wildly. Status report. Captain Vera's voice crackled over the failing comm system, barely audible above the chaos. Jesse fought his way to a nearby console, fingers flying over the controls as he assessed the damage. Multiple system failures, Captain. We're experiencing cascading overloads throughout the ship. The precursor device. It's destabilizing. As if in response to his words, the device began to disintegrate before their eyes, its structure breaking apart as residual energy crackled around it. Jesse's mind raced, recognizing the potential value of the ancient technology. Without hesitation, he lunged forward, grabbing key components as they fell away from the deteriorating structure. "We need to stabilize the ship's critical systems," he shouted to the nearby engineering team. "Focus on life support and propulsion." The engineering bay became a flurry of activity as crew members scrambled to carry out Jesse's orders. He cradled the salvaged precursor components in one arm while using his free hand to reroute power and bypass damaged circuits. Outside, the battlefield had fallen into an eerie silence. The previously frantic combat gave way to a surreal calm as disabled Harvester ships floated lifelessly in space. Slowly, the human and Iconian vessels began to regain control, their systems recovering from the temporary disruption. Admiral Zorn's voice cut through the silence, transmitted from his flagship. "All Allied ships, report status immediately." Responses trickled in slowly as communications were restored. Many vessels reported minor damage and temporary system failures, but most were quickly returning to operational status. On one of the surviving Nexus battle stations, Captain Vera coordinated efforts to assess the situation. "Initiating scan of the Harvester fleet," she announced, her voice tense with anticipation. As the results came in, her eyes widened in surprise. "Admiral, we're detecting life signs within the Harvester ships. Their crews are alive, but their technology appears completely inert." The unexpected development presented a new challenge, and Vera could almost hear the gears turning in Zorn's mind as he processed the information. Before the Admiral could respond, another transmission cut through the comm channels. It was Science Officer Krell, his voice filled with almost unchecked excitement. "Captain, Admiral, the stasis pods in the precursor facility. They're activating. The energy pulse must have triggered the awakening process. I'm working to stabilize it now, but we have living precursor beings here." The implications of Krell's discovery were monumental. But before anyone could fully process the news, long-range sensors blared a warning. Lieutenant Boyd's voice rang out from the tactical station. "New contacts detected. A third wave of Harvester ships approaching from the outer system." Admiral Zorn's response was immediate. "All functional ships form a defensive perimeter around the disabled Harvester vessels. We cannot allow them to fall back into enemy hands." As the Allied fleet moved to carry out Zorn's orders, Jesse's voice crackled over the comm from the unyielding willpower. "Admiral, Captain, I have an idea. We've salvaged components from the precursor device. I believe we can create a smaller, localized version of the pulse weapon to target the incoming Harvesters without affecting our own ships." "Do it," Zorn commanded without hesitation. "How long will you need?" Jesse glanced at the components in his hands, mind already racing through the possibilities. "Give me 2 hours. We'll need every engineer we can spare." As preparations for the new defensive strategy began, Captain Vera made a startling discovery on the Nexus battle stations. The distributed AI consciousness was exhibiting unexpected behavior, showing signs of emotional responses and a deepening understanding of both human and Iconian cultures. "Admiral," she reported, her voice filled with a mix of awe and concern, "I think we need to consider the possibility that Nexus is evolving into something more." The revelation added another layer of complexity to an already unprecedented situation. As the Human-Iconian alliance raced against time to prepare for the incoming Harvester reinforcements, deal with the disabled enemy fleet, and unravel the mysteries of both the awakening precursor beings and the evolving Nexus AI, the conflict entered a new and uncertain phase. In the depths of space, the battle for survival continued to unfold, with the fate of multiple civilizations hanging in the balance. The Alliance's hastily formed plans were about to be put to the ultimate test. As the unyielding Tenacity's engineering bay buzzed with frantic activity, Jesse's mind raced through complex calculations and improvised designs. His hands moved swiftly, assembling the salvaged precursor components into a new configuration. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he worked, the weight of their situation pressing down on him. "Pass me that power coupling," he called out to a nearby Iconian engineer. The alien's tentacle-like appendage stretched out, smoothly handing over the requested part. Jesse nodded his thanks, marveling at how seamlessly their two species now worked together. Across the room, Captain Vera's voice crackled through a comm panel. "Jesse, status update. How's our new weapon coming along?" Jesse paused his work for a moment, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. "We're making progress, Captain. The technology is incredible. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. But we're adapting it, integrating it with our systems. I think we can have a working prototype in about an hour and a half." "Good work," Vera replied. "Keep at it. We'll need every advantage we can get." As Jesse returned to his task, the scene outside the unyielding drive was one of controlled chaos. Lieutenant Boyd's voice rang out over the fleet-wide comm channel, directing ships into position around the debris field. "Iconian cruiser Starfire, take up position at coordinates 227 by 115, Boyd commanded. "Human destroyer Dauntless, I need you at 190 by 83. We need to funnel them into the kill zone. Ships maneuvered carefully through the field of disabled harvester vessels, their pilots skillfully avoiding collisions as they took up their assigned positions. In the distance, the approaching harvester reinforcements loomed ever larger on long-range sensors. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Commander Tarek's pursuit of the fleeing harvester scout ship intensified. His Iconian fighter darted and weaved through the debris field, matching the enemy vessel's every move. Tarek's eyes narrowed as he focused on his prey. The harvester ship was good, but he was better. Years of combat experience guided his actions as he anticipated the scout's evasive maneuvers. "Not today," Tarek muttered, his finger tightening on the trigger. A burst of energy lanced out from his fighter, striking the harvester ship's engines with pinpoint accuracy. The enemy vessel's speed dropped dramatically, trailing plasma as it limped through space. Tarek allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction as he opened the channel to the fleet. "Admiral Zorn, this is Commander Tarek. Harvester Scout disabled and ready for capture. Requesting assistance for boarding and recovery." Back on the precursor facility, Science Officer Krell faced a crisis of his own. The stasis pods containing the ancient beings had begun to malfunction, their occupants in danger of being lost forever. Krell's antennae twitched rapidly as he assessed the situation. The facility's unfamiliar technology presented a challenge, but he refused to let that stop him. Drawing on his knowledge of Iconian biology and the scan information available on the precursor race, he began to formulate a plan. Reroute power from non-essential systems. He ordered the small team working with him. "We need to stabilize these pods now." As his team scrambled to carry out his instructions, Krell moved from pod to pod, making minute adjustments and monitoring life signs. The process was delicate, requiring all of his considerable skill and concentration. Finally, after several tense minutes, 3 of the stasis pods stabilized. Their occupants began to stir, awakening from their millennia-long slumber. Krell watched in awe as the ancient beings opened their eyes, taking in their surroundings with a mixture of confusion and curiosity. The precursors introduced themselves as Archivist Zar, Kel, and Mira. As they regained their bearings, Krell quickly briefed them on the current situation. The Archivist's eyes widened as they absorbed the information, realizing the gravity of the conflict unfolding around them. "We will help in any way we can," Zar declared, his voice carrying the weight of eons. "Our knowledge may be ancient, but perhaps it holds the key to defeating this harvester threat." As the Archivists began sharing their insights with Krell, the Alliance's preparations for the coming battle continued apace. On the bridge of the unyielding Perseverance, Captain Vera found herself engaged in an unexpected conversation. The distributed consciousness of Nexus, the AI system that had become an integral part of their defense, was evolving at an unprecedented rate. Vera watched in fascination as complex patterns danced across her console, the AI's attempts at communication becoming more nuanced and emotive. "Nexus," Vera said softly, "can you understand me?" The response came not in words, but in a series of intricate data patterns that somehow conveyed a sense of affirmation and curiosity. Vera leaned in closer, her mind racing with the implications of this development. "We need your help," she continued. "Can you coordinate our fleet's movements? Help us anticipate the harvester's tactics?" The console lit up with a dazzling display of information. Battle plans, ship movements, and predictive models flowed across the screen faster than Vera could process. She realized that Nexus wasn't just responding to her request. It was actively strategizing, its vast network of processors working in perfect harmony to create the most effective defense possible. As the final preparations were made, Admiral Zorn's voice echoed across the comm channels. "All ships, this is Admiral Zorn. The enemy approaches, and the fate of our civilizations hangs in the balance. But we are not alone in this fight. We stand united, humans, Iconians, and now the precursors, against a common threat. Together, we will prevail." A chorus of acknowledgments rang out from ships across the fleet. On the unyielding commitment, Jesse put the finishing touches on the new pulse weapon, his hands steady despite the pressure. In the debris field, explosive charges waited silently, ready to unleash destruction on the unsuspecting Harvester ships. And on the edge of the system, the Harvester reinforcements appeared, their massive forms eclipsing distant stars as they moved inexorably towards the waiting Alliance fleet. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the course of galactic history. As tension mounted across the Allied fleet, Admiral Zorn's voice crackled over the comm once more. "Commence operation. May fortune favor the bold." With those words, the carefully laid plans of the Human-Iconian Alliance were set into motion. The fate of entire civilizations now rested on the outcome of the coming conflict, as two determined forces prepared to clash amid the stars. The vast expanse of space. As the Harvester reinforcements entered the outer edges of the system, a tense silence fell over the Allied fleet. Admiral Zorn's voice cut through the quiet, his tone resolute. "Execute Operation Shatterpoint. Lieutenant Boyd, activate the minefield." Boyd's fingers flew over his console, initiating the complex series of detonations they had meticulously planned. The debris field erupted in a dazzling display of destruction. Explosions rippled through the vacuum, tearing into the leading edge of the Harvester formation. Twisted metal and fractured hulls spun away from the epicenter of the blast, creating a chaotic maelstrom that forced the remaining Harvester ships to break formation. "Direct hit on multiple targets," Boyd reported, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Harvester fleet is scattering, just as we predicted." Admiral Zorn nodded, his gaze never leaving the hollow projection of the battlefield. "Jesse, you're clear to engage. Take out that command ship." On board the fast attack vessel, Jesse felt a surge of adrenaline as Commander Tarek maneuvered them through the debris field. The Iconian's piloting skills were unmatched, weaving between shattered hulls and drifting wreckage with impossible precision. "Approaching optimal firing range," Tarek announced, his voice steady despite the high-stakes maneuver. Jesse's hand hovered over the activation switch for the pulse weapon. He could feel the energy building within the device, a testament to the incredible power of the precursor technology they had salvaged. As they closed in on the massive Harvester command ship, Jesse took a deep breath. "Firing in 3, 2, 1. Jesse slammed his hand down on the switch. A blinding surge of energy erupted from the fast attack vessel, lancing across space to strike the Harvester command ship. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The behemoth's external lights flickered and died, its weapon ports going dark as systems across the ship failed. "Direct hit," Jesse exclaimed, unable to contain his excitement. "Their systems are shutting down. We've got our window." Without missing a beat, Tarek brought their ship alongside the now vulnerable command vessel. The boarding team, a mix of human and Iconian special forces, launched from their craft in sleek, purpose-built pods. They latched onto the Harvester ship's hull, cutting tools already whirring to life as they began their infiltration. As the boarding action commenced, the rest of the Allied fleet engaged the remaining Harvester forces. Human destroyers and Iconian cruisers moved in perfect synchronization, their tactics complementing each other in ways that would have been unthinkable mere days ago. The Nexus AI coordinated their movements with uncanny precision, analyzing and predicting Harvester maneuvers faster than any organic mind could process. Captain Vera watched the battle unfold from her position on the Nexus battle station. Her eyes darted between multiple displays, taking in the ebb and flow of the conflict. Suddenly, an alert caught her attention. "Admiral," she called out, her voice tense. "I'm detecting an unusual energy buildup in the disabled Harvester vessels from our initial engagement. It could be a backup system or a self-destruct mechanism." Zorn finished grimly. "Relay the information to all ships. We need to keep our distance from those hulks." Meanwhile, Aboard the precursor facility, Science Officer Krell and the awakened archivist huddled around a holographic display. The ancient databanks had yielded an astonishing discovery. A weapon capable of reconfiguring entire star systems, Krell muttered, his antennae twitching with excitement and trepidation. The Stellar Forge. It's almost beyond comprehension. Archivists are nodded solemnly. It was created as a last resort, a means to reshape reality itself to counter threats that could not be defeated through conventional means. Krell's fingers flew across the console as he composed a message to Admiral Zorn and Captain Vera. The existence of such a weapon could change everything, but its power was terrifying to contemplate. Back on the Harvester command ship, Jesse led his team through twisting, organic-looking corridors. The ship's interior was a nightmarish fusion of biological and mechanical components, with walls that seemed to pulse and shift as they advanced. "Stay alert," Jesse whispered to his team. "This place is like nothing we've ever encountered." As they pushed deeper into the ship, resistance intensified. Harvester crew members, recovering from the initial shock of the pulse weapon, mounted a fierce defense. The narrow corridors erupted in a cacophony of weapons fire and shouted orders. Jesse ducked behind a pulsating bulkhead, narrowly avoiding a burst of energy from a harvester weapon. As he returned fire, he noticed something odd about the ship's internal defenses. The patterns, the way the systems integrated. It all seemed strangely familiar. Realization dawned on him as he pieced together the fragments of technology he recognized. "This ship," he called out to his team over the dinner battle, "it's not just harvester tech. There are elements of human, Iconian, and precursor technology all mixed together." The implications of this discovery raced through Jesse's mind as they fought their way towards the command center. What did this mean about the true nature of the harvesters? And how would it affect their mission to capture the harvester overseer? As the boarding team prepared to breach the final defenses of the command center, the battle outside reached a fever pitch. Lieutenant Boyd's innovative use of the debris field as cover allowed smaller Alliance ships to outmaneuver their larger harvester counterparts. But the sheer number of enemy vessels threatened to overwhelm them. With tensions mounting and the fate of multiple civilizations hanging in the balance, Jesse and his team stood poised at the threshold of the Harvester Command Center. The next few moments would determine not just the outcome of this battle, but potentially the future of the entire galaxy. Jesse took a deep breath, tightening his grip on his weapon. "On my mark," he said, eyes locked on the pulsating door before them. 3, 2, 1. The door to the Harvester Command Center exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Jesse and his team surged forward, weapons at the ready, prepared for fierce resistance. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a scene that defied all expectations. In the center of the vast chamber stood a towering figure, its body a seamless blend of organic tissue and advanced machinery. Holographic displays surrounded it, each one alive with images of the raging battle outside. As Jesse's team fanned out, the figure turned to face them, its movements unnaturally fluid. "Greetings, humans," it said in perfect English, its voice a resonant baritone that filled the room. "I am Executor Zax. I must admit, I'm both surprised and impressed by your presence here." Jesse's finger tightened on the trigger of his weapon, but he held his fire, confusion evident on his face. "You speak our language?" Zax's mechanical eyes whirred as they focused on Jesse. "We've been observing your species for centuries, along with the Iconians. Your languages are but one of the many things we've studied." The revelation sent a jolt through Jesse and his team. They exchanged uneasy glances, their training warring with their curiosity. "What do you mean, studying us?" Jesse demanded, keeping his weapon trained on Zax. The Harvester Overseer's expression shifted into something resembling amusement. "This invasion, as you call it, was never merely about resources. It was a test, a crucible to determine if your species and the Iconians could overcome your differences and unite against a common threat. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Jesse's mind raced, attempting to reconcile this new information with everything he thought he knew about the conflict. Outside the command ship, the battle raged on. Admiral Zorn's voice crackled over the comm channel, urgent and focused. All ships be advised. We're detecting an unusual energy buildup in the disabled harvester vessels. Maintain distance and prepare for potential detonations. On board one of the Alliance ships, Lieutenant Boyd received new orders. Boyd, assemble an engineering team. I want you to board one of those inactive ships and investigate the source of that energy signature. Understood, Admiral, Boyd replied, already moving to gather his team. Meanwhile, in the precursor facility, Science Officer Krell and the archivist huddled around a holographic display, their faces illuminated by its ethereal glow. The Stellar Forge, Krell muttered, his antennae twitching with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Its power is... it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. Archivists are nodded solemnly. It was created as an absolute last resort, the ability to reshape entire star systems. It's a power that could save us all or doom us if misused. Krell's fingers flew across the console, composing an urgent message to Admiral Zorn and Captain Vera. As he worked, Archivist Mira spoke up, her voice tinged with concern. We've located the Forge's coordinates, she said. It's hidden deep within an unstable nebula. Accessing it will be extremely dangerous. Back on the Harvester command ship, Jesse struggled to process Zax's revelation. If this was all a test, then why the destruction? Why the loss of life? Zax's expression turned grave. The stakes had to be real for the test to be valid. But there is more at play here than you realize. The Overseer gestured to one of the holographic displays, which shifted to show a vast, dark mass moving at the edges of the galaxy. This is the true threat, one that endangers us all. The image sent a chill down Jesse's spine. The approaching force dwarfed even the massive harvester fleet, its size almost beyond comprehension. What we offer now is a temporary ceasefire, Zax continued. An exchange of knowledge to face this greater danger together. Jesse found himself at a crossroads, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. Trust the words of their enemy or continue with the original plan. The fate of the Alliance, perhaps of all civilization, hung in the balance. As Jesse grappled with his choice, Lieutenant Boyd and his team made their way through the silent corridors of the disabled harvester ship. They moved cautiously, the eerie quiet broken only by the soft hum of their equipment. Over here, one of the Iconian engineers called out, gesturing towards a hidden panel. As they pried it open, they revealed a chamber bathed in pulsating energy. Boyd's eyes widened as he took in the device at the center of the room. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, yet strangely familiar. Elements of human and Iconian design were evident in its construction, supporting Jesse's earlier observation about the Harvester's use of multiple species technologies. This is it, Boyd breathed, approaching the device. This is what's reactivating the ship systems. As Boyd's team worked to interface with the device, Admiral Zorn received a flood of critical information from multiple fronts. The intensity of the situation demanded a new approach. Establish a secure communication link, Zorn ordered. I want real-time sharing between all key players. Jesse's team, Boyd's group, the precursor facility, and our Nexus stations. As the network came online, the distributed consciousness of Nexus began to analyze the influx of data. Patterns emerged, connections formed, revealing aspects of the conflict that had remained hidden until now. Suddenly, an alarm blared across all channels. Admiral, Captain Vera's voice cut through the noise, long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity from a nearby star. Its output is becoming erratic. Zorn's brow furrowed as he processed this new complication. The gravitational disturbances caused by the star's fluctuations threatened to disrupt their carefully laid plans. As the Human-Iconian alliance found itself at this pivotal moment, with multiple critical decisions pending and new revelations emerging, the battlefield continued to shift. The choices made in the next few moments would not only determine the outcome of the current conflict, but potentially shape the future of galactic civilization as a whole. Jesse looked from Zax to his team, then back to the imposing Harvester Overseer. The weight of his next words seemed to press down on him as he opened his mouth to speak. Speak. He took a deep breath, steadying himself before addressing Zax. "We're willing to listen," Jesse said, his voice firm despite the tension coiling in his chest. "But understand this. We need more than just words. We need proof." Zax nodded, his mechanical eyes whirring as they refocused. "A wise stance, human. I would expect nothing less." Jesse tapped his comm device, establishing a secure link with Admiral Zorn. "Admiral, this is Jesse. We have a situation here. The Harvester Overseer is proposing negotiations. Claims there's a bigger threat out there." There was a moment of static before Zorn's voice crackled through. "Understood, Jesse. Hold your position. We're convening an emergency council to assess the situation." As Jesse and his team maintained their uneasy standoff with Zax, Admiral Zorn swiftly organized a conference call with key alliance leaders. Captain Vera's holographic image flickered to life alongside those of Lieutenant Boyd, Science Officer Krell, and high-ranking representatives from both human and Iconian commands. "We have a critical decision to make," Zorn began, his tone grave. "The Harvesters are offering negotiations. Given the new information about a possible greater threat, we need to decide our next move quickly." The council erupted into heated debate. Some argued for continuing the offensive, citing the devastation already wrought by the Harvesters. Others, including Krell, pushed for considering the negotiation offer. As the discussion raged on, Lieutenant Boyd's voice cut through the clamor. "Admiral, we've made a breakthrough on the disabled Harvester ship. We've managed to interface with their reactivation device." The revelation sent a ripple of excitement through the council. Boyd continued, his voice tinged with awe. "We now have control over several dormant Harvester vessels. This could be a game-changer in our negotiations." Before Zorn could respond, alarms blared across all channels. Captain Vera's face paled as she checked her readouts. "Admiral, the stellar activity we detected earlier is intensifying. The star's output is becoming dangerously erratic." On the consoles, Alliance and Harvester ships alike were being caught in powerful gravitational eddies, their hulls straining against the forces threatening to tear them apart. "All available ships, commence rescue operations immediately," Zorn ordered, his mind racing to process the rapidly evolving situation. As if on cue, Krell's antennae twitched with excitement. "Admiral, we've uncovered crucial information about the Stellar Forge. It's not just a weapon. It's also designed to stabilize volatile stellar phenomena." Zorn's eyes narrowed as he weighed their options. The pieces were falling into place, presenting a clear, if risky, path forward. "Jesse," Zorn said, his voice carrying the weight of command, "you are authorized to negotiate a temporary alliance with the Harvesters. Focus on these points: addressing the stellar crisis, sharing information about this new galactic threat, and discussing the potential use of the Stellar Forge." Jesse acknowledged the order, turning back to face Zax. "All right, let's talk. But first, we need your help with that star out there. It's threatening both our fleets." Zax inclined his head, a gesture surprisingly human for his alien form. "Agreed. I'll transmit stabilization protocols to your ships immediately." As Jesse and Zax began their tense negotiations, the enhanced Nexus consciousness hummed with activity. It processed a torrent of data flowing through the Alliance's networks at unprecedented speeds, providing real-time analysis that proved invaluable to the negotiation process. Outside, in the tumultuous space around the unstable star, Lieutenant Boyd's team put their newfound control of the Harvester ships to good use. Reactivated Harvester vessels, guided by Alliance crews, moved with precision to assist in rescue operations, their advanced technology proving crucial in navigating the treacherous gravitational disturbances. Back on the precursor facility, Krell and the archivists pored over ancient databanks, piecing together a plan to reach the Stellar Forge. The nebula surrounding the installation is unlike anything we've encountered, Archivist noted, his aged voice filled with concern. Krell nodded, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. We'll need to combine Harvester, human, and Iconian technologies to navigate it safely. This cooperation might be our only chance. As the negotiations progressed and rescue operations continued, a new threat emerged from within the Alliance itself. Sub-Commander Krell, leading a faction of hardline Iconians, broke formation and set course for the precursor facility. This is Sub-Commander Krell to all true Iconians. His message blared across Alliance channels. We cannot trust the Harvesters or the humans. We must secure the Stellar Forge for ourselves. Admiral Zorn's face hardened as he processed this new complication. Commander Tarek, assemble a task force immediately. Intercept Krell's group before they reach the facility. As Tarek's ships moved to engage the rogue Iconians, Zax revealed more about the Harvester's true nature to Jesse. Our civilization has spent millennia preparing the galaxy for what's coming, the Overseer explained, his voice solemn. What you perceived as invasions were, in fact, tests and preparations. Jesse's mind reeled at the implications. If Zax was telling the truth, it would fundamentally alter their understanding of the conflict and its place in the broader galactic context. Amid the chaos of negotiations, rescue operations, and internal conflict, the Nexus consciousness made a startling discovery. The patterns in the stellar disturbances were not random. They bore hallmarks of artificial manipulation. Admiral, the Nexus AI's voice resonated through the command center. There is a 6% probability that the stellar activity is being induced by an external force. This may be connected to the approaching galactic threat. The revelation sent a chill through the assembled leaders. The race to uncover the secrets of the Stellar Forge had just become even more urgent. As Jesse continued his delicate dance of diplomacy with Zax, and Alliance ships battled both gravitational forces and internal dissent, the fate of multiple civilizations hung in the balance. The true nature of the threat they faced was only beginning to reveal itself, and the path forward remained fraught with danger and uncertainty. Uncertainty. Jesse opened his mouth to respond to Zax when a violent tremor shook the Harvester command ship, nearly knocking him off his feet. Alarms blared and the holographic displays flickered with urgent warnings. "What's happening?" Jesse demanded, steadying himself against a nearby console. Zax's mechanical eyes whirred as he processed the incoming data. The star's activity has escalated beyond our predictions. Its gravitational disturbances are intensifying rapidly. Through the viewports, Jesse watched in horror as both Allied and Harvester ships were caught in powerful gravitational eddies. Hull plating buckled and energy fields flickered as the vessels struggled against the immense forces threatening to tear them apart. "We need to act now," Jesse said, his voice firm despite the chaos around them. "Whatever our differences, we can't ignore this threat." Zax nodded, his alien features set in a grim expression. "Agreed. I propose an immediate ceasefire and joint operation to address this crisis." Jesse quickly relayed the situation to Admiral Zorn, who concurred with the plan. Within minutes, a joint task force was assembled, bringing together the brightest minds from human, Iconian, and Harvester ranks. Lieutenant Boyd, fresh from his breakthrough with the reactivation device, was tapped to lead the effort. As Boyd's team worked feverishly to develop a solution, Commander Tarek's ships engaged Sub-Commander Krell's rogue Iconian faction near the precursor facility. The space around the ancient structure erupted in a dazzling display of weapons fire as Tarek's loyalists attempted to disable Krell's ships without destroying them. Inside the facility, Science Officer Krell and the archivist struggled to continue their research amidst the chaos of the battle raging outside. The entire structure shuddered with each near miss, scattering holographic displays and ancient artifacts alike. "We must secure this data," Krell shouted over the din, his antennae twitching frantically as he worked to download crucial information about the Stellar Forge. Back on the Harvester command ship, Zax revealed more about the true nature of the galactic threat they faced. "They are known as the Void Collective," he explained, his voice carrying a weight that silenced the room. "Energy-based entities capable of consuming entire star systems. Our actions, invasions included, were part of a long-term strategy to prepare the galaxy for their arrival." The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled leaders. Admiral Zorn, his face grim, made a swift decision. "We need to accelerate our plans for the Stellar Forge." "Captain Marcus Steele," he said, addressing a seasoned human explorer known for navigating treacherous cosmic phenomena, "I want you to lead a joint expedition into the nebula. Find that installation." As Steele assembled his team, the enhanced Nexus consciousness made a startling discovery. The AI's voice resonated through the command center. "Admiral, we've identified a recurring energy signature in the stellar disturbances. It matches fragments of data from the precursor archives." Before anyone could fully process this information, Lieutenant Boyd's voice crackled over the comms. "We've done it. We've created a device to stabilize the star." The Joint Task Force deployed their creation, a marvel of integrated technologies. Harvester energy manipulators interface with Iconian gravitational field generators, all guided by human-designed predictive algorithms. As the device activated, the star's violent thrashing began to subside, its furious energy gradually brought under control. The success of this collaborative effort marked a turning point. Executor Zax, clearly impressed, agreed to share more detailed information about Harvester technology and the Void Collective threat. The exchange of knowledge accelerated the integration of the three civilizations' technologies, sparking hope for a united defense against the coming storm. However, the fragile peace was shattered by a sudden attack on the Harvester command ship. A group of human separatists, led by the charismatic but extremist Captain Ethan Graves, emerged from hiding to launch their assault. "We will not stand by while humanity allies itself with alien scum." Graves' voice boomed across all frequencies as his ships opened fire. Admiral Zorn, recognizing the delicate nature of the situation, made a bold decision. "I'll handle this personally," he declared, assembling a team to confront Graves and his separatists. As Zorn's team departed to defuse the situation, Captain Steele's expedition entered the treacherous nebula surrounding the Stellar Forge. The swirling gases outside their viewports glowed with eerie, shifting colors that played havoc with their sensors. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout Steele's ship. "Quantum mines detected," his science officer shouted. "They're everywhere, remnants of the precursor civilization's defenses." Steele's grip tightened on his command chair. "All stop," he ordered, his voice steady despite the danger. "Let's put our combined expertise to the test. We need to find a way through this minefield without triggering a chain reaction." As Steele's team began the delicate work of navigating the precursor defenses, the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. The success of their mission, along with the resolution of the Separatist crisis and the solidification of the newfound alliance, would determine whether they stood a chance against the approaching Void Collective. The challenges they faced were immense, but for the first time since the conflict began, there was a glimmer of hope. United by a common threat and armed with shared knowledge, the combined forces of humans, Iconians, and Harvesters prepared to face whatever the universe might throw at them next. The united forces of humans, Iconians, and Harvesters braced themselves for the challenges ahead, but their newfound alliance was about to face its first major test. Admiral Zorn's voice crackled over the intercom, cutting through the tension aboard the Harvester command ship. "This is Admiral Zorn. I'm assembling a team to address an internal security threat. All non-essential personnel, clear the central hub immediately." As the Admiral's team mobilized, the ship's corridors buzzed with nervous energy. Crew members exchanged worried glances, their conversations hushed but urgent. The threat of human separatists had been a constant undercurrent since the Alliance's formation, but now it had bubbled to the surface in dramatic fashion. Zorn strode purposefully through the ship, flanked by a mix of human and Iconian security personnel. His face was a mask of dedication as they approached the central hub where Ethan Graves and his followers had barricaded themselves. The doors to the hub hissed open, revealing a scene of almost unchecked chaos. Graves stood at the center of a group of armed separatists, his eyes wild with a mixture of fear and zealotry. Barricades of overturned equipment and hastily welded metal plates surrounded them, and the acrid smell of fried circuitry filled the air. "That's far enough, Admiral," Graves called out, his voice tight with tension. "One more step, and we'll start disabling critical systems." Zorn raised his hands in a placating gesture. "Captain Graves, let's talk about this. The situation is more complex than you realize." As Zorn attempted to reason with the Separatists, light years away, Captain Marcus Steele's expedition faced a different kind of danger. The swirling nebula outside their viewports pulsed with eerie, shifting colors as they cautiously navigated through the field of quantum mines. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout Steele's ship. The science officer's voice rang out, tight with stress. "Captain, we've got a new problem. An automated defense system just activated." Steele leaned forward in his command chair, eyes fixed on the main view screen. A series of shimmering energy barriers materialized around them, slowly closing in on the expedition's ships like the jaws of some cosmic trap. "All stop," Steele ordered, his mind racing. "We need options, people. Now." The bridge crew worked furiously at their stations, a cacophony of beeps and status updates filling the air. Steele's tactical officer, a seasoned Iconian named Vex, spoke up. "Captain, I have an idea. If we reconfigure our shields to match the frequency of those energy barriers, we might be able to pass through them." Steele nodded sharply. "Do it. But be aware, this will leave us vulnerable to other forms of attack. We'll need to move fast once we're through." As Steele's expedition grappled with the precursor defenses, Lieutenant Boyd's team monitored the recently stabilized star with growing fascination. The star's surface roiled with new activity, emitting pulses of exotic particles that defied conventional analysis. Boyd's eyes widened as he studied the readings. "This is incredible," he muttered, more to himself than his team. "These particles, they're like nothing we've ever seen before." The enhanced Nexus consciousness hummed with activity, processing the flood of new data. Its synthesized voice filled the monitoring station, analysis complete. These particles share properties with those described in precursor archives regarding the Void Collective. The implications of this discovery sent a ripple of excitement and fear through the Allied forces. On the precursor facility, Science Officer Krell and the archivists redoubled their efforts, poring over ancient databanks with renewed urgency. Krell's antennae twitched rapidly as he collated the new information. "This could be the key," he said, his voice thick with excitement. "If we can harness these particles, we might have a chance against the Void Collective." But even as hope bloomed, new complications arose. Commander Tarek's loyalist forces had finally subdued Subcommander Krell's rogue Iconian faction, but at a steep cost. The outer structures of the precursor facility were heavily damaged, and key artifacts lay in ruins. Tarek surveyed the destruction, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "Secure what's left," he ordered his team. Every piece of intact data could be crucial. As these events unfolded across the battlefield, The standoff on the Harvester command ship reached a critical point. Graves, feeling cornered by Zorn's arguments, made a desperate move. "Enough talk," he shouted, his finger hovering over a control panel. "One more word, and I'll overload the power core. This ship, your precious alliance, all of it will be nothing but space dust." The tension in the room ratcheted up to an almost unbearable level. Zorn, realizing that conventional tactics had failed, decided to take a risk. "Wait," he said, his voice calm despite the dire situation. "I have a proposition for you, Captain Graves. Join us on the expedition to the Stellar Forge. See for yourself the magnitude of the threat we face. Then make your decision." Graves blinked, clearly caught off guard by the unexpected offer. For a moment, the finger over the control panel wavered. As the fate of the Alliance hung in the balance, Executor Zax's voice cut through the tension. "Admiral Zorn, I have critical information about the Void Collective. They possess the ability to manipulate space-time itself, creating localized temporal distortions." This new revelation added yet another layer of complexity to the already daunting challenge facing the Alliance. As Zorn awaited Graves' response, as Steele's expedition ventured deeper into the precursor defenses, and as the scientists raced to understand the exotic particles, one thing became clear. The true test of their newfound unity was just beginning. The air in the central hub crackled with tension as Admiral Zorn and Captain Graves faced off, the fate of the Alliance hanging in the balance. Suddenly, a flurry of activity erupted on the nearby console. The enhanced Nexus consciousness, its algorithms working at lightning speed, had made a breakthrough. Its synthesized voice cut through the standoff. "Admiral Zorn, urgent information. Analysis of the exotic particles from the stabilized star reveals a method to temporarily neutralize the Separatist weapons." Zorn's eyes widened, but he kept his composure, not letting on to Graves that the situation had shifted. In a matter of seconds, the information was relayed to Zorn's neural implant. He blinked twice, acknowledging receipt of the data. With a subtle hand signal, Zorn activated the neutralization field. The Separatist weapons emitted a soft whine, their power indicators fading to darkness. Graves, noticing the change, frantically tried to activate his weapon. "What have you done?" he shouted, panic rising in his voice. Zorn stepped forward, his voice steady and authoritative. "It's over, Captain Graves. Your weapons are neutralized. But this doesn't have to end in defeat for you." Graves' followers looked to their leader, uncertainty replacing their earlier bravado. Zorn continued, "I'm offering you a chance at redemption. Join Captain Steele's expedition to the Stellar Forge. See the truth of our situation with your own eyes." Graves hesitated, his perseverance visibly wavering. After a tense moment, he lowered his now useless weapon. "Fine," he said, his voice a mixture of defeat and curiosity. "We'll go. But this doesn't mean we trust you." As Zorn's team began securing the Separatists light years away, Captain Steele's expedition was making a breakthrough of its own. The reconfigured shields pulsed with energy as they approached the shimmering barriers. "Shields matching frequency," Vex reported, his voice tense. "Attempting passage. Now." The ship shuddered as it made contact with the energy barrier. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed they might be torn apart. Then, with a flash of light, they were through. Steele let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Damage report?" "Minor systems fluctuations, Captain," his first officer responded. "But we're intact." As they pressed deeper into the nebula, a massive structure loomed before them. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a space station that seemed to blur the line between organic and mechanical. "My God," Steele whispered, awe evident in his voice. "What is that?" The station's surface rippled with what appeared to be living metal, its contours defying conventional architectural logic. Steele's team approached cautiously, searching for a way inside. Back on the battlefield, Lieutenant Boyd's eyes were glued to his monitors. The exotic particles emitted by the stabilized star danced across his screen, revealing properties that defied known physics. "This is incredible," Boyd muttered, his fingers flying over the controls. "These particles, they could be the key to defending against the Void Collective's space-time manipulation." He turned to his team, excitement lighting up his face. "We need to start work on a prototype shield generator immediately. If we can harness these particles, we might have a chance against the Void Collective's abilities." On the precursor facility, Science Officer Krell sifted through the wreckage of the battle with Subcommander Krell's forces. His antennae twitched rapidly as he uncovered a partially intact data storage device. "Careful," he called to his team. "This device may contain crucial information." As they began to extract data from the damaged device, fragments of information about the Void Collective's first invasion emerged. Krell's eyes widened as he pieced together the implications. This changes everything," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The separation of humans and Iconians, the purpose of the Stellar Forge. It's all connected to the first invasion." Meanwhile, aboard the Harvester command ship, a new face joined the Alliance. Dr. Ilara Voss, a human xenobiologist with piercing green eyes and a sharp intellect, stepped onto the bridge. Executor Zax greeted her, his imposing form dwarfing the human scientist. "Dr. Voss, welcome aboard. Your expertise in biological systems will be crucial in understanding our technology." Voss nodded, her eyes already roaming over the organic-mechanical hybrid systems of the Harvester ship. "I'm eager to begin, Executor. The integration potential between our technologies is immense." As these events unfolded, Captain Steele's expedition, now including the wary Ethan Graves and his followers, successfully docked with the mysterious space station. The airlock hissed open, revealing corridors that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Steele turned to his team, his face set with commitment. "We'll split into groups to cover more ground. Graves, you're with me. Let's see what secrets this station holds." As they ventured deeper into the station, the Alliance continued to strengthen and prepare. The Void Collective's advance loomed on the horizon, but for the first time since the conflict began, there was a glimmer of hope. The race against time had begun, and the future of the stars hung in the balance. Balance, as Captain Steele and his team, including the newly cooperative Ethan Graves, ventured deeper into the mysterious space station. They found themselves in a vast chamber filled with rows of stasis pods. "What do you make of this, Captain?" Graves asked, his earlier hostility replaced by genuine curiosity. Steele approached one of the pods, wiping away a layer of dust from its surface. Through the frosted glass, he could make out the vague outline of a humanoid figure. These could be the key to understanding this place, he mused. But waking them up could be risky. As the team deliberated on their next move, the station suddenly hummed to life around them. Lights flickered on, illuminating the cavernous space with a soft blue glow. Holographic displays materialized in the air, filling the room with streams of data and images. "Captain," Vex called out, his eyes wide as he studied the nearest display. This is incredible. It's a complete history of the precursor civilization and their encounters with the Void Collective." Before Steele could respond, a hiss of escaping air caught their attention. One of the stasis pods was opening on its own, its systems activating without any input from the team. They watched transfixed as the pod's occupant stirred to life. The being that emerged was unlike anything they had ever seen. It had a humanoid form, but its features were a seamless blend of human and Iconian characteristics. As it opened its eyes, a look of ancient wisdom and purpose filled its gaze. "I am Archon Zena," the being said, its voice resonating with a subtle harmonic quality. "I have awaited this moment for eons." Steele stepped forward, his hand instinctively resting on his sidearm. "I'm Captain Marcus Steele of the Allied Expedition. We come seeking answers about the Void Collective and the Stellar Forge." Zena nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Then you have come to the right place, Captain. I am one of the last of the precursors, the species that gave rise to both humans and Iconians. We placed ourselves in stasis as part of a long-term plan to guide our descendants when the Void Collective returned." As Zena spoke, more holographic displays activated, showing detailed schematics of the Stellar Forge. "The Forge is more than just a weapon," she explained. "It's a tool capable of restructuring entire star systems to create barriers against the Void Collective space-time manipulation abilities." Graves stepped closer, his eyes wide with wonder. "All this time, we thought it was just a superweapon, but it's so much more." Meanwhile, aboard the Harvester command ship, Dr. Alara Voss hunched over her workstation, her green eyes reflecting the glow of her screens. She had been working tirelessly, studying the intricate biology of the Harvesters. Suddenly, she sat up straight, a look of excitement on her face. "Executor Zax," she called out, "I've made a breakthrough." The imposing Harvester leader glided over to her station. "What have you discovered, Dr. Voss?" Voss pulled up a series of complex diagrams on her screen. The Harvester's organic-mechanical hybrid nature allows for rapid adaptation to new environments and technologies. This adaptability could be the key to developing effective defenses against the Void Collective. Zax's eyes glowed with interest. "Explain further, Doctor." "I believe we can develop a method to temporarily grant similar adaptive abilities to human and Iconian physiology," Voss said, her fingers flying over the controls as she brought up more data. "It could give us a crucial edge in the coming conflict." Back on the main battlefield, Lieutenant Boyd and his team worked feverishly to scale up their particle shield prototype. The air crackled with energy as they activated the full-scale field, encompassing several ships in a shimmering bubble of protection. "It's working," Boyd exclaimed, his face lit with triumph. "The field is holding against simulated space-time distortions." However, his celebration was short-lived as alarms blared across the control panel. "Power levels are dropping rapidly," one of his team members reported. "We can't maintain this field for long without draining our ships dry." Boyd's brow furrowed as he studied the readouts. "We need to find a way to reduce the power requirements. But this is still a major step forward." As these developments unfolded across the battlefield, Admiral Zorn received a priority communication from the enhanced Nexus consciousness. Its synthesized voice carried a note of urgency that sent a chill down Zorn's spine. "Admiral Zorn, we have detected a disturbance in the fabric of space-time at the edge of the galaxy. The pattern matches those described in the Precursor archives. The Void Collective has begun its incursion into the Milky Way." Zorn's face hardened with perseverance. He opened a channel to the newly formed Emergency Council. "Representatives of the human, Iconian, and Harvester factions, we have a situation. The enemy is at our doorstep. It's time to act." As the council convened to discuss their next moves, Captain Steele's team continued to explore the space station under Archon Zena's guidance. They delved deeper into the station's archives, uncovering detailed schematics for advanced weaponry designed specifically to combat the Void Collective. "These weapons," Zena explained, gesturing to the holographic displays, "utilize exotic particles similar to those emitted by the stabilized star. They have the potential to harm the energy-based entities of the Void Collective directly." Ethan Graves, who had been silent for much of the exploration, suddenly spoke up. "Captain Steele," he said, his voice filled with a newfound willpower, "I'd like to volunteer to lead a team back to human space. We need to share this knowledge and technology with the rest of the Alliance." Steele studied Graves for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed. This information could turn the tide of the war. Get your team ready to move out. As the expedition prepared to return with their groundbreaking discoveries, Archon Zena revealed one final piece of crucial information. The stellar forge requires a specific type of stellar core to function at its full capacity, she said, her voice grave. You must locate and secure a suitable star to power the device. The implications of this revelation hung heavy in the air as Steele's team began preparations for their return journey. They knew that the race against time had truly begun, with the future of the stars hanging in the balance. As the weight of their discoveries settled upon them, Captain Steele turned to his team, dedication etched on his face. We need to get this information back to the fleet immediately, he said, his voice steady. Graves, assemble your team. We're leaving as soon as possible. Ethan Graves nodded, his earlier skepticism replaced by a sense of purpose. I'll have them ready within the hour, Captain. As the expedition team prepared for departure, Archon Zena approached Steele. Captain, I believe it would be beneficial if I were to accompany you. My knowledge of the precursor technology could prove invaluable to your alliance. Steele considered for a moment, then agreed. Welcome aboard, Archon. Your expertise will be crucial in the coming days. The team worked quickly to secure the remaining stasis pods for transport. As they did, Steele couldn't help but marvel at the implications of their discovery. The awakening of precursors could change everything. Within hours, the expedition ship detached from the mysterious space station, its holds filled with ancient technology and the sleeping forms of the remaining precursors. As they set course for the main fleet, Steele opened a secure channel to Admiral Zorn. Admiral, we've made contact with a precursor being and uncovered crucial information about the Stellar Forge, requesting immediate conference upon our return. Zorn's holographic image flickered to life, his expression a mix of surprise and anticipation. Understood, Captain. I'll convene the Emergency Council. In the meantime, I'm implementing a galaxy-wide search for a suitable stellar core. We'll need every advantage we can get. As Steele's ship raced back to the fleet, activity across the Alliance reached a fever pitch. Scout ships, equipped with newly developed hybrid sensors, fanned out across the galaxy. Their mission: to locate a star with the exact properties needed to power the Stellar Forge. Aboard the Harvester command ship, Dr. Alara Voss hunched over her workstation, her green eyes reflecting the glow of holographic displays. Beside her, a human test subject writhed in discomfort, his skin rippling with subtle changes. Remarkable, Voss muttered, making notes as she observed the subject. The adaptive abilities are present, but the side effects. The test subject let out a guttural growl, his eyes flashing with uncharacteristic aggression. Voss quickly administered a sedative, watching as the man's features slowly returned to normal. Computer, adjust the serum composition. Reduce cytokine levels by 15% and increase neuroinhibitors, she commanded. We need to mitigate these side effects before field deployment. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Boyd stood in the midst of a web of cables and conduits, overseeing the installation of his new shield generator network. Engineers from human, Iconian, and Harvester ships worked side by side, integrating the complex system across multiple vessels. Power flow stable, reported an Iconian technician, her antennae twitching with concentration. Initiating synchronization protocols. Boyd nodded, his eyes fixed on the main display. Bring the network online. Now. A low hum filled the air as the shield generators activated. A shimmering field of energy bloomed around the ships, interconnecting and strengthening with each passing second. Power drain is within acceptable parameters, Boyd announced, a smile of satisfaction crossing his face. We've done it. We can maintain this shield indefinitely. As the Alliance fortified its defenses, Ethan Graves' ship docked at a human space station. He strode purposefully into the command center, carrying a data core containing the schematics for the precursor weaponry. Admirals, counselors. He addressed the gathered human leadership, his voice firm. I bring you technology that could turn the tide of this war. But to use it, we must fully commit to the alliance with the Iconians and Harvesters. Murmurs rippled through the assembled officials. Graves activated a holographic display, showing the devastating potential of the precursor weapons against simulated void collective entities. The choice is clear, Graves continued. We stand together or we fall alone. Across the galaxy, Science Officer Krell's antennae quivered with excitement as his team uncovered the first hidden precursor outpost. Nestled within a dense asteroid field, the ancient facility hummed to life under their touch. Fascinating, Krell breathed, studying the outpost sensor array. This technology, it's beyond anything we've encountered. With this, we can detect the slightest space-time disturbances across vast distances. As Krell's team worked to integrate the outpost systems with the Alliance network, a priority alert flashed across their screens. The enhanced Nexus consciousness had detected a series of anomalies near the galactic core. Admiral Zorn's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression grim. The Void Collective's advance is accelerating. We need to act now. Zorn outlined his new strategic plan, dividing the fleet into 3 task forces. Ships moved into formation, preparing for their assigned roles in the coming conflict. As the Alliance mobilized, Captain Steele's ship emerged from faster-than-light travel, rejoining the main fleet. Archon Zena stood beside him on the bridge, her ancient eyes taking in the organized chaos of the massive fleet. Your people have come far, she observed, but there is still much to do. Steele nodded, watching as ships from all 3 species moved in concert, preparing for the challenges ahead. We're ready to face whatever comes next, he said, his voice steady. Together. As if in response to his words, long-range sensors lit up with urgent warnings. A massive energy surge had been detected in a distant, uninhabited star system. The readings were unlike anything they had seen before, bearing hallmarks of both Void collective activity and precursor technology. Admiral Zorn's voice crackled over the comms. Captain Steele, prepare your team for immediate deployment. We need to investigate this phenomenon. Commander Tark will lead the reconnaissance mission. As Steele acknowledged the order, he caught Archon Zena's eye. The ancient being nodded, a look of fierce dedication on her face. Whatever they were about to face, it was clear that the true test of the Alliance was yet to come. Come! The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as Captain Steele issued rapid-fire orders to his crew. Prepare for immediate departure, Steele commanded. Helm, set course for the anomaly coordinates. Tactical, bring all systems to full combat readiness. As Steele's ship disengaged from the main fleet, Commander Tark's reconnaissance team was already en route to the mysterious energy surge. Tark stood on the bridge of his lead vessel, the sleek Iconian cruiser Starfire, his antennae twitching with anticipation. All ships maintain formation. Tark's voice rang out over the comm system. We're approaching the outer boundary of the affected region. Sensors on full sweep. The small fleet of reconnaissance ships pushed forward, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. Suddenly, the space around them began to ripple and distort. Alarm klaxons blared across the ships as the fabric of reality seemed to fold in on itself. Evasive maneuvers, Tark shouted, but it was too late. A series of swirling, luminescent tunnels materialized around the ships, their gravitational pull impossible to resist. We're being drawn in, the helm officer reported, her fingers flying over the controls. Unable to break free, Tarek gripped his command chair as the Starfire plunged into one of the tunnels. The ship's hull groaned under the strain of the intense gravitational forces. Outside the viewports, reality twisted into a kaleidoscope of light and color. All hands, brace for impact. Tarek called out, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of alarms and straining metal. As quickly as it began, the journey through the space-time tunnel ended. The reconnaissance fleet burst back into normal space, their sensors struggling to make sense of their new surroundings. "Damage report," Tard demanded, shaking off the disorientation from their turbulent passage. "Minor structural damage to all ships, but we're intact," his second-in-command reported. "Sir, you need to see this." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a breathtaking sight. A massive planet loomed before them, its surface obscured by a complex latticework of artificial structures. The entire world was encased in a shimmering, geometric web that pulsed with energy. "By the ancestors," Tard breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "What is this place?" As the reconnaissance team cautiously approached the planet, their sensors detected no signs of immediate threat from the defensive grid. Tark ordered a closer inspection, and the fleet began a careful orbital insertion. Meanwhile, back at the Alliance's main staging area, Admiral Zorn received an urgent transmission. The holographic form of a human scout captain materialized before him, excitement evident in her voice. "Admiral, we've found it," she exclaimed. "A star that matches all of Archon Zena specifications. It's perfect for powering the Stellar Forge." Zorn leaned forward, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on the scout's image. "Excellent work, Captain. What's the catch?" The scout's expression sobered. "The star is located in a heavily populated system, so it's controlled by a species we've never encountered before. They call themselves the Zarthak." Zorn's mind raced with the implications. They needed that star, but they couldn't risk alienating a potential ally, or worse, creating a new enemy, in their desperate fight against the Void Collective. "Understood, Captain. Return to your assigned patrol route. I'll handle this from here." As the scout's image faded, Zorn opened a channel to the diplomatic corps. "Get me Ambassador Marcus Donovan. We have a delicate situation that requires his expertise." Within hours, Ambassador Donovan stood before Admiral Zorn, his weathered face set with purpose. Zorn briefed him on the situation, emphasizing the critical nature of their need for the Zarthak star. "This won't be easy, Ambassador," Zorn concluded. "We have no established relations with the Zarthak. We don't know their culture, their values, or how they might perceive our request." Donovan nodded, his mind already formulating strategies. "I understand, Admiral. I'll assemble a team and prepare for immediate departure. We'll find a way to make this work." As Donovan left to begin his preparations, activity across the Alliance reached a fever pitch. On the Harvester command ship, Dr. Alara Voss stared at her console in disbelief. After countless failed attempts, the latest iteration of her adaptive physiology serum showed no adverse effects in the test subjects. "We've done it," she whispered, her green eyes wide with amazement. She quickly composed herself and opened a channel to Admiral Zorn. "Admiral, the serum is ready for full-scale production. We can begin enhancing key personnel immediately." Zorn acknowledged the report, a rare smile crossing his face. "Excellent work, Doctor. This could be the edge we need. Begin distribution to priority targets as soon as possible." Across the fleet, Lieutenant Boyd and his team worked tirelessly to implement the new shield generator network. As the final connections were made on the 5-ship battle group, Boyd held his breath and initiated the system. A low hum filled the air as the generators spun up. Slowly, a shimmering field of energy bloomed around each ship, then began to merge and interlock. Within moments, the entire battle group was encased in a single, pulsating shield bubble. "Power efficiency is off the charts," one of Boyd's engineers reported, her voice filled with awe. "Shield strength is at 180% of projected values and holding steady." Boyd allowed himself a moment of pride before turning to the task of training crews to operate the new system. They had made a significant breakthrough, but time was running short. On the precursor space station, Archon Zena stood before two stasis pods, her ancient eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Alliance scientists bustled around her, making final preparations for the revival process. "Are you certain about this, Archon?" Captain Steele asked, standing at her side. "We don't know what condition they'll be in after all this time." Zena nodded solemnly. "We have no choice, Captain. Their knowledge may be the key to our survival." As the revival sequence began, the pods hummed to life. Steele watched in anticipation, knowing that the awakening of these ancient beings could change the course of the war. Across the galaxy, the enhanced Nexus consciousness detected a disturbing pattern in the Void Collective's movements. It relayed its findings to Admiral Zorn, who stared at the holographic map with growing concern. The Void Collective's forces were converging on specific points in space, creating areas of intense space-time distortion. When connected, these points formed a complex geometric pattern spanning the galaxy. "They're up to something," Zorn muttered, his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed the data. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, prepare for immediate redeployment. We need to counter this new strategy." As Alliance forces scrambled to their new positions, Ethan Graves returned to the fleet with human reinforcements. He wasted no time in beginning work on adapting the precursor weaponry for use on Alliance ships. Meanwhile, Science Officer Krell stood in the newly reactivated precursor outpost, his antennae quivering with excitement as data streamed in from across the galaxy. The advanced sensor arrays were providing unprecedented insight into the movements of the Void Collective. Back on the mysterious planet with the defensive grid, Commander Tarek's team made a startling discovery. As they scanned the planet's surface, they detected unmistakable signs of precursor technology integrated into the defensive systems. "Sir," one of Tarek's officers called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's in the precursor language." Tarek's eyes widened as ancient symbols began scrolling across the main view screen. He opened a channel to the Alliance fleet. "Admiral Zorn, we've made contact. You're not going to believe what we found." "Found?" Tarek's voice crackled with excitement as he transmitted the message to Admiral Zorn. As the Alliance leadership absorbed this new development, the mysterious planet's surface began to shift. Massive plates of what appeared to be solid metal ground against each other, revealing glimpses of hidden structures beneath. "Sir, something's happening," Lieutenant Vex called out, her eyes fixed on the readouts scrolling across her console. "The planet's surface is reconfiguring itself." Commander Tarek watched in awe as colossal doors materialized in the planet's crust, slowly yawning open to expose cavernous underground complexes. The sheer scale of the revelation left the entire reconnaissance team speechless. "Prepare a landing party," Tarek ordered, his antennae twitching with terrifying excitement. "We need to investigate these structures up close." As Tarek's team made their groundbreaking discovery, Ambassador Marcus Donovan's diplomatic mission was reaching a critical juncture. His ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the outskirts of the Zarthak-controlled system, immediately greeted by an impressive display of the insectoid species' fleet power. Donovan stood on the bridge, taking in the sight of the sleek biomechanical ships that surrounded them. "Quite the welcoming committee," he murmured to his aide. A transmission crackled through the ship's communication system. "Alliance vessel, you are cleared to approach. Follow our escort to the capital." As they neared the Zarthak homeworld, Donovan's breath caught in his throat. The planet was encircled by a web of crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with energy, drawing power directly from the system's star. The ambassador's ship touched down in a vast docking bay, its architecture a mesmerizing blend of organic and technological elements. As Donovan and his team disembarked, they were met by a delegation of Zarthak officials. The insectoid beings towered over the humans, their exoskeletons shimmering with an iridescent sheen. The lead Zarthak stepped forward, mandibles clicking as it spoke in a surprisingly melodious voice. "Welcome, Ambassador Donovan. I am High Counselor Zixera. We are curious about your presence here." Donovan bowed slightly, careful to maintain eye contact with the towering alien. "High Counselor, thank you for granting us this audience. We come with a matter of utmost importance, not just for our alliance, but for the entire galaxy." As Donovan began his diplomatic dance with the Zarthak, events back at the Alliance's main fleet were unfolding at a rapid pace. The two stasis pods containing the ancient precursors hissed open, releasing a cloud of cryogenic vapor. Captain Steele and Archon Zena watched intently as two figures emerged, their bodies adorned with intricate, glowing markings. The first to speak was a tall, slender being with eyes that seemed to hold the depths of space itself. "I am Archon Thelos," he announced, his voice resonating with power. "Specialist in void collective countermeasures." The second figure, shorter but emanating an aura of incredible intelligence, stepped forward. "And I am Archon Lyra, Master of Stellar Engineering." Without wasting a moment, the two Archons immersed themselves in the Alliance's efforts. Thelos began poring over defensive schematics with Lieutenant Boyd, while Lyra engaged in rapid-fire discussions with the Stellar Forge design team. Meanwhile, Dr. Alara Voss stood in the medical bay of the Harvester command ship, overseeing the first large-scale distribution of her adaptive physiology serum. She watched as key personnel from various Alliance species received their injections, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Initiating monitoring protocols," she announced, her fingers flying over her datapad. "Prepare for potential physiological changes." The recipients of the serum began to exhibit remarkable transformations. A human officer gasped as new sensory organs developed along his temples, granting him enhanced spatial awareness. An Iconian engineer's skin hardened, forming a protective carapace capable of withstanding extreme temperatures. As the enhanced personnel adjusted to their new abilities, Lieutenant Boyd faced the first true test of his interconnected shield generator network. A Void collective scouting party launched a surprise attack on an outlying Alliance outpost, their energy weapons distorting the very fabric of space-time. Boyd watched the tactical display with suspenseful pause as the shield network engaged. The interlocking energy fields pulsed and rippled, successfully deflecting the Void collective's assault. "Shield integrity holding at 92%, reported a technician. "The network is redistributing energy loads as designed." Boyd allowed himself a small smile before diving back into the data. "Excellent. Let's analyze this engagement and implement upgrades immediately." Across the fleet, Ethan Graves led a team of engineers in retrofitting Alliance ships with the adapted precursor weaponry. The hangar bay of a massive carrier buzzed with activity as crews worked tirelessly to integrate the new systems. "Power coupling secure," called out a technician from beneath the belly of a sleek fighter. "Ready for weapons test." Graves nodded, his eyes fixed on the targeting computer. "Initiating live-fire exercise. All personnel, clear the range." The modified ship's weapons flared to life, lancing out at simulated Void collective targets. The energy beams twisted and coiled, perfectly mimicking the erratic movements of the energy-based entities. Each shot found its mark, disrupting the simulated targets with pinpoint accuracy. As these developments unfolded, Science Officer Krell stood in the newly activated second precursor outpost, his antennae twitching as he processed the flood of incoming data. The expanded sensor network painted a clearer picture of the Void collective's movements, revealing a complex pattern of convergence points across the galaxy. Krell's fingers danced across the holographic interface, marking each crucial juncture. "Admiral Zorn," he called out over the comm channel, "I've identified several critical locations where the Void collective is likely to converge. This data could be vital for our strategic planning." Admiral Zorn absorbed the information, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the tactical implications. With a decisive nod, he opened a fleet-wide channel. Attention, all ships. We are forming a specialized strike force to conduct preemptive attacks on identified Void collective convergence points. All vessels equipped with Void Shield Network and Graves precursor weapons report to Sector 7 for immediate briefing and training exercises. As the Alliance forces mobilized, Commander Tarek's team on the mysterious precursor planet made a discovery that could shift the balance of power in the coming conflict. Deep within the newly revealed underground complexes, they uncovered a vast hangar containing dozens of advanced precursor ships. Tarek's hand trembled slightly as he ran it along the sleek hull of the nearest vessel. This technology, it's beyond anything we've seen before. If we can get these ships operational, it could change everything. He quickly opened a secure channel to Admiral Zorn. Sir, we've found something. You're going to want to see this for yourself. As Tarek's team began the daunting task of assessing the precursor ships, the enhanced Nexus consciousness detected an alarming acceleration in the Void Collective's advance. Entire star systems began to vanish from the Alliance's long-range scans, consumed by the ravenous energy-based entities. The urgency of the situation took a toll on Ambassador Donovan as he continued his delicate negotiations with the Zarthak. High Counselor Zixera listened intently as Donovan explained the nature of the Void collective threat. Your words are troubling, Ambassador. Zixera clicked, multifaceted eyes gleaming. But we require more than words. You speak of impressive technologies. We would like to see them in action. Donovan nodded, sensing an opportunity. Of course, High Counselor. We would be honored to demonstrate our interconnected shield network and adapted precursor weapons. Perhaps we could arrange a joint exercise? As the diplomatic dance continued, Archon Zena stood before a holographic projection of the prototype stellar core extraction device. Alliance engineers swarmed around her, making final adjustments to the massive machine's design. We must be prepared to move quickly, Zena urged, her ancient eyes filled with perseverance. The Void Collective's advance leaves us little time to spare. Across the Alliance fleet, a palpable sense of urgency drove every action. New discoveries and technologies offered hope, but the relentless expansion of the Void Collective cast a long shadow over their efforts. As they raced to integrate their newfound assets and knowledge, the Alliance knew that the true test of their preparations lay just beyond the horizon. The fate of countless civilizations hung in the balance as the Alliance prepared for the battles to come. As the tension across the fleet reached a fever pitch, a priority transmission from Commander Tarek's team on the mysterious precursor planet cut through the din of activity. Admiral Zorn's cybernetic eye whirred as he processed the incoming data. Sir, reported Lieutenant Vex, her voice crackling with excitement. Commander Tarek's team has successfully activated one of the precursor ships. The news sent a ripple of excitement through the command center. Admiral Zorn leaned forward, his organic eye narrowing. Patch me through to Commander Tarek immediately. The view screen flickered to life, revealing Tarek standing in what appeared to be the bridge of an alien vessel. The interior pulsed with an otherworldly blue light, holographic displays hovering in the air around him. Admiral, Tarek said, his antennae twitching with awe-inspiring excitement, I can hardly believe what we've discovered. This ship, which we've dubbed the Phoenix, possesses capabilities that defy our current understanding of physics. Impressive, Commander, Zorn replied. But we need more than words. I want you to bring that ship back to the main fleet immediately. We need to see these capabilities for ourselves. Tarek nodded, his fingers dancing over a nearby console. Understood. Sir, we're plotting a course now. You might want to brace yourself. This ship's propulsion system is unlike anything we've ever seen. As the transmission ended, Zorn turned to his staff. Prepare for the Phoenix's arrival. I want every sensor we have trained on that ship the moment it enters our space. Hours passed, the fleet settling into an uneasy wait. Suddenly, alarms blared across the command center. Before Zorn could demand a report, a massive ship materialized in the center of the fleet, its sleek form gleaming with an iridescent sheen. "Sir," a sensor operator called out, his voice filled with awe, "it's the Phoenix. They've completed a journey that should have taken weeks. In just a few hours." As the Alliance marveled at the Phoenix's arrival, events on the Zarthak homeworld took an unexpected turn. Ambassador Donovan stood before the imposing form of High Counselor Zixera, having just completed a demonstration of the Alliance's shield network and precursor weapons. Zixera's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Your technology is indeed impressive, Ambassador. Perhaps it is time we showed you that the Zarthak are not without our own secrets." With a gesture from the High Counselor, a section of the floor retracted, revealing a massive device that hummed with power. Donovan's eyes widened as he recognized the implications of what he was seeing. "This," Zixera announced, "is our contribution to the fight against the Void Collective. A device capable of generating stable wormholes across vast distances of space." Donovan's mind raced with the possibilities. "High Counselor, this technology could revolutionize our entire strategy against the Void Collective. With your permission, I'd like to contact Admiral Zorn immediately to discuss a joint operation." As Donovan relayed the news to Admiral Zorn, the Alliance's strategic outlook shifted dramatically. The combination of the Phoenix's advanced propulsion and the Zarthak's wormhole technology opened up new avenues for rapid response and deployment. Zorn wasted no time in formulating a new plan. "We'll create a series of rapid response fleets," he announced to his assembled staff. "The Zarthak wormhole generators will allow us to deploy these fleets instantly to any threatened system. The Phoenix will serve as the flagship for our most critical operations." As the Alliance began to implement this new strategy, Dr. Alara Voss received the first combat data on her adaptive physiology serum. A small outpost had repelled a Void Collective scouting party, with enhanced personnel demonstrating remarkable adaptability in the face of the enemy's space-time distortion tactics. Voss pored over the data, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "The serum is performing even better than expected," she murmured to herself. "Now to see how we can push its limits even further." Across the fleet, Lieutenant Boyd was already working on integrating the adaptive physiology enhancements with the ship-based shield network. His fingers flew over holographic displays as he fine-tuned the algorithms. "If we can sync the shield's response patterns with the enhanced reflexes of our crews," he explained to a group of engineers, "we might be able to create a defense system that can predict and counter Void Collective attacks before they even fully materialize." Meanwhile, Ethan Graves stood in the hangar bay of a massive carrier, surveying the rows of ships newly retrofitted with adapted precursor weaponry. These vessels would form the core of the Alliance's new rapid response force. "Run final diagnostics on all weapon systems," Graves ordered. "I want these ships ready to deploy at a moment's notice." As these preparations unfolded, Science Officer Krell made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. Correlating data from multiple precursor outposts, he identified a central coordination point for the Void Collective's activities. Krell's antennae quivered with excitement as he presented his findings to Admiral Zorn. "This could be the key to striking at the heart of the Void Collective. Sir, if we can disrupt their coordination, we might be able to throw their entire invasion into chaos." Zorn nodded, his cybernetic eye whirring as he processed the implications. "Agreed. We need to gather more intelligence on this coordination point. Assemble a special operations team immediately. Commander Tarek will lead the mission using the Phoenix." As Tarek prepared for this critical reconnaissance mission, the construction of the Star Harvester entered its final stages. Archon Zena stood in the control room of the massive orbital facility, overseeing the last calibrations. "We're almost there," she announced to the assembled engineers. Once this device is operational, we'll have the power we need to fuel the Stellar Forge and turn the tide of this war. But even as hope began to rise within the Alliance, the Void Collective launched its most devastating offensive yet. Multiple key systems came under simultaneous attack, the energy-based entities employing new tactics that accelerated time in localized areas, consuming entire planets before defenders could react. Admiral Zorn's voice boomed across the fleet-wide communication channels. All ships equipped with advanced shields and weapons, form up into your designated strike groups. This is the moment we've been preparing for. Engage the enemy and hold the line until we can bring our new strategies fully online. As battles erupted across multiple fronts, pushing the limits of the Alliance's new technologies, Commander Tarek and his crew aboard the Phoenix prepared to embark on their mission to the heart of Void Collective territory. The advanced ship hummed with power as it prepared to jump into the unknown. Tarek stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the starfield ahead. "Activate the sensor array," he ordered. "Let's see what secrets the Void Collective has been hiding." With a burst of energy, the Phoenix vanished into the depths of space, carrying with it the hopes of the entire Alliance. As the ship ventured into uncharted territory, the fate of the stars hung in the balance. With the outcome of Tarek's mission and the activation of the Star Harvester poised to shape the course of the war against the Void Collective. As the Phoenix vanished into the depths of space, Commander Tarek and his crew found themselves hurtling through a treacherous field of space-time distortions. The ship's advanced sensors painted a chaotic picture of swirling energies and warp reality. Navigational systems struggling to compensate, reported Lieutenant Vex, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "These distortions are unlike anything we've encountered before." Tarek nodded, his antennae twitching with nervous energy. "Maintain course. The precursors built this ship to withstand far worse than this." As if in response to his words, the Phoenix's hull thrummed with power. The swirling chaos outside seemed to part before them, revealing a clear path through the distortion field. "Sir," called out the sensor officer, "I'm detecting a massive structure ahead. It's like nothing I've ever seen." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a colossal sphere composed of swirling dark energy. Its surface roiled and pulsed, sending out waves of distortion that bent the very fabric of space around it. "That has to be it," Tarek breathed, "the coordination point for the entire Void Collective." As the Phoenix cautiously approached the dark energy sphere, battles raged across multiple star systems. Alliance ships, their hulls gleaming with the shimmering energy of Boyd's enhanced shield network, danced through space in intricate maneuvers. Graves' adapted precursor weapons lashed out with precisely targeted bursts of energy, disrupting the Void Collective's attempts to manipulate local space-time. Aboard the Alliance flagship, Admiral Zorn watched the tactical displays with his cybernetic eye whirring in constant analysis. "Status report on the enhanced personnel," he barked. A nearby officer responded quickly. "Sir, Dr. Voss's adaptive physiology serum is performing beyond expectations. Our troops are showing remarkable resilience to the Void Collective's space-time manipulation attacks." Zorn allowed himself a small nod of satisfaction before turning his attention to a priority transmission from the Zarthak homeworld. Ambassador Donovan's face appeared on the interface, his expression a mix of excitement and tension. "Admiral, we're initiating the stellar core extraction process. The Star Harvester is moving into position now." The view shifted to show the massive Star Harvester, its intricate array of energy collectors and containment fields surrounding the Zarthak star. As the device powered up, visible disturbances rippled across the star's corona. Suddenly, alarms blared across the command center. "Sir," called out a sensor operator, "we're detecting a large contingent of Void Collective entities diverting from their current offensive. They're heading straight for the Zarthak system." Zorn's organic, eye narrowed as he quickly assessed the situation. Deploy Graves and his rapid response force to reinforce the Zarthak system's defenses. We cannot allow the Star Harvester to fall. As Alliance ships surged through hastily opened wormholes towards the Zarthak system, the Phoenix continued its approach to the dark energy sphere. Tarek and his crew watched in fascination as pulses of energy rippled across its surface. "Sir," reported the science officer, "I'm detecting correlations between the sphere's energy fluctuations and the Void collective attacks across the galaxy. It's as if the structure is coordinating their entire offensive." Tarek's antennae stiffened with the realization of what they'd discovered. "This changes everything. Transmit our findings back to the fleet immediately. Use all available channels. We can't risk this information not getting through." As the Phoenix's advanced communication systems beamed their crucial intelligence back to the Alliance, the battle for the Zarthak star reached a fever pitch. Ethan Graves' reinforcement fleet burst out of a network of wormholes, immediately engaging the Void collective forces swarming around the Star Harvester. Graves' voice crackled over the comms. "All ships, form up. Protect that Harvester at all costs." Alliance vessels wove through the chaos, their shields flaring as they absorbed hit after hit from the Void Collective's energy weapons. The Zarthak's energy projection devices created a constantly shifting network of wormholes, allowing defenders to appear and disappear across the battlefield in a dizzying display of tactical maneuvering. At the heart of the maelstrom, the Star Harvester continued its delicate work. A containment field of pure energy slowly enveloped the star's core, gradually separating it from the outer layers. Ambassador Donovan stood with the Zarthak scientists, his face illuminated by the pulsing glow of their monitors. "Extraction at 15%, announced a Zarthak technician, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Containment field holding steady." Donovan nodded, his eyes never leaving the readouts. "Keep going. We've come too far to stop now." Back on the Alliance flagship, Admiral Zorn received Tarek's transmission. As he processed the implications of the dark energy sphere, he quickly assembled a conference with the Archons and key scientific advisors. A coordinated strike on this sphere could cripple the Void Collective's ability to manipulate space-time on a large scale, Zorn explained, his cybernetic eye projecting a holographic model of the structure. Archon Zena nodded gravely. "But such an attack would require precise timing and immense firepower. We'd need to commit a significant portion of our advanced weaponry." As the Alliance leadership debated their next move, events on the precursor planet took an unexpected turn. Science Officer Krell and his research team had made a breakthrough in the underground complexes, activating a dormant AI system that began interfacing with the planet-wide defensive grid. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the ancient chambers. "I am Guardian, last defense against the Void. How may I assist you in this fight?" Krell's antennae quivered with excitement as he quickly established a link with Admiral Zorn. "Sir, we've awakened something here. Something that could turn the tide of this war." As reports flooded in from all fronts, Zorn made his decision. "Assemble a special task force," he ordered. "We're going to strike at the heart of the Void Collective. Commander Tarek and the Phoenix will lead the assault." In the medical bay of the flagship, Dr. Voss worked feverishly alongside Archon Thelos, their fingers flying over holographic displays as they refined a new version of the adaptive physiology serum. This should provide protection against even the most extreme space-time distortions, Voss explained, her eyes gleaming with commitment. As the special task force assembled and the new serum was distributed, the Alliance stood on the precipice of a decisive engagement. The extraction of the Zarthak stellar core continued under heavy fire. Commander Tarek prepared for the most daring mission of his career, and the ancient defenses of the precursor planet hummed to life. The next few hours would determine the fate of countless civilizations. As Alliance forces steeled themselves for the battles ahead, the Void Collective's dark energy sphere pulsed ominously. A silent challenge to those who dared to stand against the cosmic tide of destruction. Chaos. A silent challenge to those who dared to stand against the cosmic tide of destruction. The Phoenix trembled as it led the Special Task Force through the treacherous field of space-time distortions. Commander Tark gripped the arms of his command chair, his eyes fixed on the swirling maelstrom outside. "Activate the precursor shielding," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension evident in his taut antennae. "Create a stable corridor for the rest of the fleet." As the Phoenix's advanced technology engaged, a shimmering bubble of energy expanded around the ship, pushing back against the chaotic forces that threatened to tear them apart. Behind them, the rest of the task force fell into formation, their own upgraded shields linking with the Phoenix's to form a protective tunnel through the distorted space. Lieutenant Vex's fingers danced across her console. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations ahead. The coordination point is in visual range." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the colossal dark energy sphere that served as the Void Collective's nerve center. Its surface roiled and pulsed, sending out waves of distortion that bent the very fabric of space around it. Tarek's eyes narrowed as he assessed their target. "Prepare the chronotin bombs. We'll only get one shot at this." As the task force approached their objective, battles raged across the galaxy. In the Zarthak system, Ethan Graves' fleet fought furiously to defend the Star Harvester. The massive device hummed with power as it entered the final phase of stellar core extraction. Ambassador Donovan stood transfixed in the Harvester's control room, watching as the containment field slowly separated the star's core from its outer layers. Massive solar flares erupted from the Zarthak star, bathing the battlefield in deadly radiation. "Containment field at maximum capacity," a Zarthak technician announced, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "Core separation complete in 3, 2, 1. A blinding flash filled the view screen as the stellar core was finally wrenched free from its cosmic cradle. The contained sphere of stellar material pulsed with barely restrained power, its glow casting long shadows across the control room. Donovan's hand shook as he activated the comm link to Graves' flagship. "Extraction successful. We need immediate escort to the Stellar Forge coordinates." On the precursor planet, Science Officer Krell worked feverishly alongside the Guardian AI, his fingers flying across holographic interfaces as they brought the planet's ancient defenses online. "Guardian," Krell called out, his antennae twitching with nervous energy. "What's the status of the orbital defense grid?" The AI's resonant voice filled the chamber. "Orbital defenses at 78% capacity and rising. Detecting large-scale Void Collective forces approaching the system. Estimated time to engagement, 17 minutes. Krell's eyes widened as he processed the information. He quickly opened a channel to Admiral Zorn's command ship. "Admiral, we need reinforcements immediately. The Void Collective is dash." His transmission was cut short as the entire chamber shook violently. Krell stumbled, catching himself on a nearby console. "Guardian, what was that?" "Void Collective Vanguard forces have breached the outer defense perimeter," the AI responded, its tone unchanged despite the dire news. "Activating ground-based energy cannons and deploying autonomous defense drones." Outside, massive cannons emerged from hidden silos across the planet's surface. Swarms of sleek, gleaming drones poured from underground hangars, forming intricate defensive patterns in the sky. Aboard the Alliance flagship, Admiral Zorn's cybernetic eye whirred as he processed a flood of incoming data. Reports of Void Collective attacks on multiple populated systems scrolled across his neural interface, each more desperate than the last. "Deploy rapid response forces to the Centauri and Rigel sectors," he ordered, his organic eye fixed on the tactical hologram before him. "Prioritize evacuation of civilian populations." A junior officer approached, his face pale. "Sir, we're receiving reports of accelerated time dilation effects in the targeted systems." Entire planets are aging years and minutes. Zorn's expression hardened. Activate the Zarthak wormhole network. Get our enhanced crews and advanced ships to those systems immediately. As Alliance forces surged through the wormhole network, the battle around the Void Collective Coordination point intensified. The Phoenix led the charge, its weapon systems unleashing a barrage of chronoton bombs against the dark energy sphere. Direct hit, Lieutenant Vex called out as the first bomb detonated. Ripples of distorted space-time spread from the impact point, causing the sphere's surface to fluctuate wildly. Commander Tarek leaned forward in his chair. "Press the attack. We need to dash." His words were cut off as a massive tendril of dark energy lashed out from the sphere, narrowly missing the Phoenix. The ship rocked violently as it veered to avoid the attack. "Evasive maneuvers," Tarek shouted. "All ships, concentrate fire on that breach point." The task force's ships wove through a storm of energy attacks, their enhanced crews pushing their vessels to the limit. Chronoton bombs and precursor weapons fire streaked across space, each impact sending shockwaves of distorted time and space rippling through the battlefield. As the Alliance fought on multiple fronts, the extracted stellar core began its perilous journey. The Star Harvester, flanked by a heavily armed escort fleet, moved cautiously through the chaos of the Zarthak system. Ambassador Donovan stood at the helm of the Harvester, his eyes never leaving the pulsing sphere of stellar material. "How long until we reach the stellar forge coordinates?" he asked, his voice tight with tension. A Zarthak navigator chittered softly before responding. "At current speed, approximately 3 hours. However, long-range sensors are detecting multiple Void Collective signatures on intercept courses." Donovan's heart made as he weighed their options. "We can't risk a prolonged engagement. Inform Admiral Zorn that we're going to attempt a direct wormhole jump to the Stellar Forge location." As the message was relayed, the escort fleet closed ranks around the Star Harvester. Energy weapons charged and shields hummed to life as they prepared to make their risky move. Across the galaxy, Alliance forces fought with fierce persistence against the Void Collective's onslaught. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance as battles raged from the heart of populated systems to the very edge of known space. With the Stellar Forge within reach and the assault on the Void Collective's coordination point underway, the next few hours would determine whether the Alliance's daring plan would succeed or if the galaxy would fall to the cosmic invaders. Tide of destruction, the Star Harvester's engines flared to life as it prepared for the daring wormhole jump. Ambassador Donovan gripped the edge of a nearby console, his knuckles tightening with tension. The escort fleet tightened its formation around the massive vessel, energy weapons charged and shields humming at full power. "Wormhole generators online," the Zarthak navigator announced, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "Calculating optimal jump trajectory." As the Harvester prepared to make its leap, Admiral Zorn's voice crackled over the comm system. "Donovan, we're rerouting additional ships to your position. The Stellar Core is our top priority." Before Donovan could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The tactical display lit up with a sea of red indicators as Void Collective forces surged into the system. "Jump sequence aborted," the navigator chittered in panic. "Multiple hostile contacts on intercept course." Donovan's mind raced as he assessed their options. "Evasive maneuvers. We can't risk a jump with that many hostiles in proximity." The Star Harvester banked hard, its massive bulk straining against the sudden change in direction. The escort fleet fanned out, forming a protective screen around the precious cargo. In the Phoenix's command center, Commander Tarek watched as the chronoton bombs detonated against the surface of the dark energy sphere. Each impact sent ripples of distorted space-time, cascading across the structure's surface. "Direct hit on coordinates Alpha 7. Lieutenant Vex called out, detecting localized stabilization of space-time fabric. Tarek leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "There's our opening. All ships, form up on the Phoenix. We're going in." The task force surged forward, their advanced shielding pushing through the chaotic maelstrom of energies surrounding the sphere. As they penetrated the outer layers, the ship's sensors came alive with new data. "Commander," Vex reported, her voice tinged with awe, "I'm detecting an intense concentration of energy at the sphere's core. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered." Tarek's antennae twitched as he processed the information. "That has to be their nerve center. Prepare another volley of chronoton bombs. We need to—" His words were cut short as a tendril of dark energy lashed out, narrowly missing the Phoenix. The ship rocked violently, its precursor shielding straining against the assault. "Evasive action," Tarek ordered. "All ships, concentrate fire on that energy source." As the battle raged around the coordination point, the precursor planet's defenses sprang to life. Science Officer Krell worked feverishly alongside the Guardian AI, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "Guardian, status report on planetary defenses," Krell called out, his antennae quivering with nervous energy. The AI's resonant voice filled the chamber. Orbital defense grid at 94% capacity. Ground-based energy cannons fully operational. Autonomous defense drones deployed and awaiting further instructions. Krell nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Incoming Void collective forces detected. Estimated time to engagement? 12 minutes until first contact," Guardian replied. "Initiating preemptive countermeasures." Across the planet's surface, massive cannons emerged from hidden silos. The air shimmered as energy shields snapped into place around key installations. Swarms of sleek, gleaming drones poured from underground hangars, forming intricate defensive patterns in the sky. In the Zarthak system, Ethan Graves' fleet found itself locked in a desperate struggle. Void collective entities swarmed around the Alliance ships, their attacks focused on the critical wormhole generators. "Delta Squadron, tighten up that perimeter." Graves barked into the comm. "We cannot lose those generators." Alliance ships maneuvered in tight formations, their weapons blazing against the cosmic onslaught. The space around them warped and twisted as the Void collective entities manipulated the fabric of reality itself. As the battle raged, a priority transmission cut through the chaos. Dr. Alara Voss's face appeared on the main view screen, her eyes bright with excitement despite the obvious fatigue on her features. "Commander Graves, we've had a breakthrough," she announced. "We've developed a method to imbue non-organic matter with adaptive properties. I'm transmitting the specifications now." Graves' eyes widened as he scanned the incoming data. This could change everything. How quickly can we implement it? "We're already working on integrating it into critical systems," Voss replied. "Prioritize your flagship and key defensive platforms." As the new technology began to take effect, Alliance ships demonstrated an uncanny ability to adapt to the Void Collective's attacks. Shields reconfigured on the fly, and hull plating shifted to counter the most devastating assaults. Back at the Star Harvester, the situation had become dire. The Void Collective ambush had caught the convoy in a deadly crossfire, their energy-based weapons tearing through the escort ship's defenses. Ambassador Donovan watched in horror as another Allied vessel succumbed to the onslaught, breaking apart in a silent explosion. "We can't hold out much longer," he muttered, his voice tight with tension. Suddenly, the comm system crackled to life. Admiral Zorn's voice cut through the chaos. "Donovan, prepare for immediate matter transport. We're activating the experimental long-range transporters." Before Donovan could fully process the Admiral's words, the air around the stellar core began to shimmer and distort. In a blinding flash of energy, The contained stellar material vanished from the harvester's hold. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, confirmation came through. Core successfully rematerialized at stellar forge coordinates. A collective cheer went up from the bridge crew, but their celebration was short-lived. The Void collective forces, sensing their prize had slipped away, redoubled their attack with furious intensity. As the Alliance forces fought on multiple fronts, the stellar forge began to awaken. Archon Zena stood at the center of a whirlwind of activity, coordinating teams of engineers as they worked to integrate the stellar core into the ancient device. Massive structures shifted and realigned, their movements accompanied by the groaning of metal and the crackle of raw energy. As power levels within the forge rose, it began to emit pulses of exotic particles that rippled outward across space. The effects were immediately noticeable. Across the battlefield, Void collective entities faltered, their control over space-time weakening in the face of this new energy. At the heart of the Void collective coordination point, Commander Tarek's task force pressed their advantage. The Phoenix's sensors penetrated deeper into the dark energy sphere, revealing the true nature of its core. "Commander," Lieutenant Vex called out, her voice filled with a mix of awe and trepidation. "I'm detecting a nexus of hypercompressed space-time at the center of the sphere. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." Tarek's mind raced as he considered their options. That has to be the source of their power. Prepare all remaining chronotin bombs. We're going to hit that nexus with everything we've got. As the task force moved into position, the future of the stars hung in the balance. The Alliance's bold, multi-pronged strategy had brought them to this critical juncture. Now, with the stellar forge powering up and the heart of the Void collective's power within reach, the next few moments would determine the course of the war. Tarek took a deep breath, his fingers hovering over the launch controls. "All ships, stand by for coordinated strike. On my mark, fire." The Phoenix shuddered as it unleashed its payload, chronotin bombs streaking towards the heart of the dark energy sphere. The rest of the task force followed suit, their weapons converging on the central nexus. As the explosions rippled through the structure, something unexpected happened. The nexus began to pulse with an intense, otherworldly light. Waves of energy radiated outward, distorting the fabric of space-time around them. "Commander," Lieutenant Vex called out, her voice urgent. "The sphere is destabilizing, but it's causing massive fluctuations in the surrounding space." Tarek gripped his command chair as the ship rocked violently. "All ships pull back. We need to regroup and—" His words were cut short as a burst of static filled the communications channel. When it cleared, Admiral Zorn's voice came through. "Commander Tarek, hold your position. We're detecting a significant change in the battle dynamics across all fronts." As if on cue, the tactical display lit up with new information. The Void collective entities surrounding them began to falter, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. "Sir," Vex reported, her antennae twitching with excitement, "I'm picking up powerful energy signatures emanating from the stellar forge coordinates. It appears to be fully operational." Tarek's eyes widened as he processed the implications. "The forge. It's working. Admiral, what's our next move?" Zorn's voice crackled through the comm system. "We're pressing our advantage. I'm redirecting additional forces to your location. Your mission is critical, Commander. Push deeper into that sphere and find a way to neutralize it completely." As the task force regrouped, they noticed the space around them shifting. Pockets of stable space-time began to form, creating a network of safe zones amidst the chaos of the dark energy sphere. "Sir," Vex called out, "these stable areas. They seem to be linked to the pulses coming from the stellar forge. It's creating a galaxy-wide network that's interfering with the Void Collective's ability to manipulate reality." Tarek nodded, his mind racing with tactical possibilities. Then we use it to our advantage. All ships, form up on the Phoenix. We're going to ride these stable zones and push towards the core. The task force surged forward, their advanced shielding systems adapting to the treacherous environment. As they penetrated deeper into the sphere, they encountered pockets of hypercompressed space-time that threatened to tear their ships apart. Shields at maximum. Tarek ordered, divert all non-essential power to the hull integrity field. The Phoenix shuddered as it passed through a particularly dense pocket of warp space. For a moment, it felt as if the entire ship was being stretched and compressed simultaneously. Then, with a lurch, they broke through into a relatively calm area. Status report. Tarek called out, his antennae twitching with nervous energy. Vex's fingers danced across her console. Hull integrity holding at 82%. Sir, the adaptive shielding is performing better than expected. Wait, I'm detecting something ahead. It's the Nexus. The central core of the Void Collective's power loomed before them, a pulsating singularity that seemed to devour light itself. As they watched, tendrils of dark energy lashed out, attempting to push back the encroaching pockets of stable space-time. Sir, one of the bridge officers called out, we're receiving a transmission from Dr. Voss. She says they have completed work on a quantum resonance device designed to disrupt the singularity. Tarek's eyes narrowed as he considered their options. Can we deploy from here? The officer shook his head. Negative. Sir, it needs to be placed in close proximity to the target. Tarek took a deep breath, his decision made. Prepare a strike team. We're going in. As the Phoenix moved into position, the rest of the task force formed a protective screen around them. Tarek led a small team to the airlock, each member equipped with personal shielding units and the compact quantum resonance device. Remember, Tarek addressed his team, our objective is to place this device as close to the singularity as possible. We go in fast, we deploy, and we get out. Any questions? The strike team shook their heads, their expressions a mix of dedication and apprehension. Good. Let's move. The airlock opened, and they launched themselves into the swirling chaos of the dark energy sphere's core. As they navigated through the treacherous environment, they could feel the conflicting forces pulling at them from all directions. Dodging tendrils of dark energy and pushing through pockets of distorted space-time, they inched closer to their target. The singularity loomed before them, its presence so overwhelming that it seemed to consume their very thoughts. Almost there, Tarek called out, his voice strained. Prepare the device for deployment. As they closed in on their objective, a massive surge of energy erupted from the singularity. The strike team was buffeted by the blast, their personal shields flaring as they struggled to maintain their position. Tarek gritted his teeth, pushing against the onslaught. Now, deploy the device. With a final burst of effort, they activated the quantum resonance device and launched it towards the heart of the singularity. As it made contact, a blinding flash of energy erupted, engulfing the strike team and spreading rapidly throughout the entire sphere. Aboard the Phoenix, Lieutenant Vex watched in awe as the dark energy structure began to fluctuate wildly. Sir, the singularity is destabilizing. The entire sphere is collapsing. The task force quickly moved to extract Tarek and his team, their ship straining against the waves of distorted space-time emanating from the failing Void Collective Nexus. As they pulled away from the collapsing structure, Admiral Zorn's voice came through the comm system once more. All ships, this is Admiral Zorn. The Void Collective is in full retreat across multiple systems. Press the attack and secure those areas immediately. The tactical display lit up with new information, showing Void Collective entities withdrawing from key positions throughout the galaxy. The Stellar Forge's energy grid continued to expand, restoring normal space-time in its wake and further weakening the invaders' hold on reality. Commander Tarek, safely back aboard the Phoenix, watched as the dark energy sphere imploded, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The Void Collective's coordination point had been neutralized, but he knew the fight was just getting started. "All ships," Tarek called out, his voice firm with drive, "form up and prepare to pursue. We've struck a critical blow, but we need to press our advantage while we have it." As the task force regrouped and prepared for their next move, the galaxy-wide battle entered a new phase. The Alliance had gained the upper hand, but the Void Collective, though weakened, was not yet defeated. The final push to secure the galaxy and bring an end to the cosmic invasion lay ahead, with countless worlds hanging in the balance. As the Phoenix and its task force regrouped, Admiral Zorn's voice crackled through the comm system once more. "All ships, this is Admiral Zorn. The time has come to initiate the final phase of our strategy. The Precursor planet's long-range teleportation system is now online. Prepare for immediate deployment to key strategic locations across the galaxy." Commander Tarek's eyes widened as he processed the implications. "Lieutenant Vex, coordinate with Fleet Command. We need to synchronize our assault with the other task forces." The tactical display came alive with new data streams, showcasing the intricate web of Alliance forces spread across the galaxy. In a dazzling display of advanced technology, ships began to vanish from their current positions, reappearing instantaneously at crucial Void Collective strongholds. The Phoenix's engines roared to life as Tarek issued his orders. "Helm, set course for the nearest unstable region. We'll use the turbulence from the collapsing sphere to mask our approach." As they navigated through the chaotic space, the dark energy sphere behind them finally imploded with a silent, yet visually spectacular burst of light and energy. The resulting shockwave propelled the Phoenix forward, its advanced hull barely withstanding the immense forces at play. "Shields at critical levels," Vex shouted over the groaning of the ship's superstructure. "We're riding the edge of the shockwave." Tarek gripped his command chair, his knuckles tightening. "Divert all non-essential power to shields and structural integrity. We just need to hold on a little longer." The Phoenix emerged from the turbulence, its hull scorched but intact. As the view screen cleared, they witnessed the aftermath of the implosion rippling across space, weakening Void Collective entities in its wake. "Sir," Vex reported, her antennae twitching with excitement, "I'm receiving reports from across the galaxy. Alliance ships equipped with Dr. Voss's smart material technology and Graves' precursor weapons are engaging Void Collective forces. The enemy's ability to manipulate space-time is severely compromised." Tarek nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Then let's join the fight. Set course for the nearest engagement zone and prepare all weapons." As they approached the battle, they saw Alliance ships dancing through space with unprecedented agility. The smart material hulls shifted and adapted in real time, deflecting energy attacks that would have previously torn them apart. Beams of exotic energy lanced out from Alliance vessels, disrupting the very essence of the Void Collective entities. "Incoming transmission from Ethan Graves," Vex announced. Graves' face appeared on the display, his expression a mix of exhilaration and focus. "Commander Tarek, glad to see you made it out in one piece. We're using the Zarthak wormhole network to launch surprise attacks on Void Collective staging areas. Care to join the party?" Tarek grinned. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Graves. Send us the coordinates." The Phoenix plunged into a swirling vortex of energy, emerging moments later in the midst of a Void Collective resupply depot. Caught off guard, the energy-based entities scattered in disarray. "All weapons fire at will," Tarek ordered. The ship's advanced weaponry came to life, sending pulses of chronodon energy and quantum-disrupting torpedoes into the heart of the enemy formation. Void Collective entities twisted and dissipated, unable to maintain their cohesion under the onslaught. As they pressed their attack, a priority message came through from Admiral Zorn. "All ships, We received critical information from Science Officer Krell on the precursor planet. They've discovered a dormant system capable of generating a galaxy-wide quantum entanglement field. This could be our key to victory, but we need time to activate it. Tarek's mind raced as he assessed the situation. Admiral, request permission to lead a defensive formation around the precursor planet. We can buy Krell the time he needs. Permission granted, Commander, Zorn replied. I'm redirecting all available ships to your position. The fate of the galactic realm may well rest on the success of this operation. The Phoenix emerged from another wormhole, this time finding itself in orbit around the precursor planet. A swarm of Void collective entities was already converging on their location, their movements frantic and desperate. They know what we're up to, Vex observed, her voice tense. Tarek nodded grimly. Then we make our stand here. All ships form up in a defensive perimeter. Nothing gets through to that planet. The space above the precursor world erupted into chaos as Alliance ships clashed with the full might of the remaining Void collective forces. Energy beams crisscrossed the battlefield, while explosions blossomed silently in the vacuum of space. Amidst the furious battle, Tarek received a transmission from Dr. Ilara Voss. Commander, we've developed a method to temporarily infuse our ships with the properties of the quantum entanglement field. It will allow us to phase in and out of normal space-time, giving us an edge against the Void Collective's attacks. Understood, Doctor, Tarek replied. Implement the modifications as quickly as you can. We'll hold the line until then. As the battle raged on, Alliance ships began to shimmer and flicker, becoming partially translucent as they phased in and out of reality. Void collective attacks passed harmlessly through them, while their own weapons remained devastatingly effective. Tarek watched the tactical display, noting the steady advance of Alliance forces across multiple fronts. This is it, he murmured, the turning point we've been fighting for. Suddenly, a massive surge of Void collective entities broke through the defensive line, heading straight for the planet's surface. Sir, Vex called out, they're making a push for the quantum entanglement generators. Tarek's eyes narrowed. Not on our watch. All hands, prepare for atmospheric entry. We're taking this fight to the ground. The Phoenix plunged through the planet's atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot as it raced to intercept the Void collective assault. As they broke through the cloud cover, Tarek saw the sprawling precursor installation below, its ancient architecture pulsing with newly awakened energy. Bring us in low, Tarek ordered. We need to reach those generators before the Void collective does. As they approached the landing zone, Tarek could see Science Officer Krell and his team working feverishly at a massive control panel. The air around them shimmered with the latent energy of the quantum entanglement field. The Phoenix touched down, and Tarek led a strike team out onto the planet's surface. Krell, he shouted over the din of battle. What's the status of the system? Krell looked up, his compound eyes reflecting the chaos around him. We're close, Commander, but we need more time to fully activate the field generators. Tarek nodded grimly. Then that's what we'll give you. All units, defensive positions. We hold this ground at all costs. As Alliance forces dug in around the precursor installation, the sky darkened with the approach of the Void Collective's final assault. The fate of humanity and all alien species hung in the balance as both sides prepared for the climactic battle that would determine the course of cosmic history.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.